So, do we have everything ready? You guys are happy with how you're looking?
Should I not be? Cadmat, is that a slight?
No, I love you guys all, and I think you're very pretty tonight. I'm just,
thank you.
Before I take the responsibility of broadcasting this on my channel, I want to make sure you guys are comfortable.
I mean, we're already live.
You don't have a choice anymore.
So you don't have actually a choice, but I'm asking just to be nice.
All right. Good. Then welcome everyone to Faded Connections, the PoE-Talk with Balor&Cat. It's episode 13. We're going to talk all about synthesis, about the new mechanics after the patch on Friday, about the problems with the old ones, and of course about what we're looking forward to seeing in the future and what we spent most of our time with this league. So, yeah. Hi guys, how are you doing? Pause, will you tell us what you've been up to in regards to your 100 push with the KB miner and what you're doing now in Path of Exile?
Sure. Hello everyone, and thank you for having me on the podcast, first of all. As for what I've been doing, well, dying. My push kind of ended really early on the KB year. I was not expecting to have so many bugs and problems, and performance actually was really good for me, but not for my team. So they were really lagging behind, and I was fighting triple player HP synthesis mobs that attack you from 2 screens away. And yeah, I did not expect to die. But the push was good. I think the build is not the best one to push for 100 with. Like, it takes a bit of setting up the items you kind of need and the wand and whatnot. But other than that, I feel like it's a really good build if you want to do anything. It can clear even Shaper, and it's a lot of fun. And it's the last version of KB that GGG allowed us to have for now.
The area on it with mines still looks really huge.
Yeah, that's all because of the Saboteur. You can have an absolutely insane range.
Wonder. I tried to play a normal Wonder after the KB changes. It's just not.
Yeah,
it's just not good enough anymore.
I tried to. It just feels so bad compared to before. It's not that it's not playable. It just feels bad.
It'd probably be good if you'd never played it before. You'd be like, "Oh, this is alright," but I've played it when it was good. Now it's not.
Like the time when RiceQT played Earthquake and he was telling chat that it's fine, and everyone in chat was like, "No, it's horrible. What are you doing there?" He's like, "It's fine. I just never played it when it was super OP." Yeah. No, that I wasn't aware that KB Mines is the only way to play KB. I thought that the Wonder build was maybe still alive. That's sad to hear.
It's
usable. You can play it, and it's definitely like, especially with the support, you can push for 100 with it. Lots of people still do it, but if you've played the versions before that, you just can't do that, and that's a problem with a lot of skills. I feel like I can't play half the builds anymore because I've played them and now they feel bad.
Oh. Damn.
It's nice when you get the opposite experience to that, though. Going back to a skill that's like, I've been doing Stormburst, and honestly, it's not actually old Stormburst anymore. It's a completely new skill. But being able to, say I'm playing Stormburst and it actually feels pretty good is nice.
True.
That's true. But Stormburst is a little bit... I mean, I'll talk about it later, but I think it's a little bit strong. Maybe. But...
just a little?
Like Blight. Blight is really good now, too. Like, just on its own. It feels so much better than it used to.
I love Blight.
Just actually does damage now.
I think I leveled like 4 or 5 characters with Blight this league. Yeah, just here Balor is silent. I can't do anything about BalorMage's volume right now.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to boost the microphone, because while it's much better quality now, it's fuckloads quieter than the other one.
Can you do something within
100%.
Can you boost it within the Discord settings maybe, or something like that? I wouldn't know
You
that.
can
It's
right click
boosted
on
to
his
100%.
webcam.
It's boosted to 100%.
Yeah, I have him at
Oh.
200%. I have him capped out.
Yeah, it's at 200 on this end as well. I need to find a way to boost the sound because like the quality's way better and I sound way
we can
better,
all
but
just
it's
try
just
and,
quieter.
yeah, we can all just talk a little bit more silent, and then we compensate for BalorMage. Just
Yeah, I mean, if we whisper, Balor will sound loud. People will be happy.
So yeah, Octavian, you dipped a little bit into Stormburst, but I've seen you play a lot of different builds. I didn't even know what to write down for my little homework where I check what everyone's been up to before they tell me, so that I know they don't tell me bullshit. But you've been also
You actually
experimenting.
check on us?
I've been playing a lot more builds than I usually do this early on in the league because I just couldn't figure out exactly what I wanted to play. I played a lot of skills that like felt pretty good, but nothing that really like. Basically, the last 2 leagues in a row, both Delve League and Betrayal, I played the same build to level 100 twice, and I wanted to play that same build again, but my stream probably would have rioted at me, so I had to diverge to something else. Scourge Arrow Scion is what I've played in both of those, and I've used that to push to Delve 1000. I've used that to do everything in the game, essentially. It's a really, really strong, really fun build. Slayer nerfs did hit it somewhat, or the Overleech nerfs, but I think you could still definitely make it work. But yeah, if I did Scourge Arrow 3rd league in a row, I think my chat would have gone ballistic. So I've played. The other thing is that I went into the league expecting to be able to play Discharge Totems, and you can no longer support Discharge with Spell Totem support, which was a ninja change that wasn't in the patch notes that GGG pushed through, I think, kind of at the last minute, because they were buffing Discharge going into this league, and Discharge Totem was already able to reach like 20 million Shaper DPS very easily without the buff. So it would have been absolutely bonkers single target. So I sort of had to, at the last minute, decide on a different league starter as well. So it left me all up in the air in terms of what I wanted to play.
Well,
Wait,
that
so
sucks.
it was working last league.
Yes, it was.
Right. I've never actually seen somebody playing Discharge Totems.
Isn't it
No,
like
It sounds like it would be great.
So
was-
Discharge, when used by a totem, deals damage based off of your offensive charges without consuming them.
because
Right.
totems don't
Which is
actually have
why-
charges; they only have
Yeah.
endurance charges.
Because totems cannot gain power of frenzies, so they can only key off your damage, but they're the one casting it, so they don't spend. Basically, it was broken. GGG was right to fix it. It's just the fix was,
The fact that they didn't say anything, like
I think
the
it was very
ninja
last minute.
fix.
Because like right before the league started, I was doing my build review streams, and I got my most popular build review stream that I'd ever done, because a lot of other bigger streamers weren't streaming around that time because it was like the last few days of the league. So I put out videos and I had streams multiple days in a row that got decent coverage where I was talking about Discharge Totems is broken. This is what I'm going to play. It's crazy. And honestly,
So it's your own fault.
I honestly think it might be because I think someone might have seen that and communicated it to Grinding Gear and gotten it fixed, because it really shouldn't have operated that way.
That'll
So
learn ya.
yeah, so someone's been talking to GGG. We just need to find them now.
There's a rat among us.
But in the end, I was going to start as a Hierophant for the Discharge Totem build. I was partway through leveling the Templar when I found out, so I had to switch over. I played around with Divine Ire for a little bit. It felt pretty good, but honestly, despite the flashy visuals, it didn't feel consistent enough to me. So I tried Stormburst and I liked it much better, and I've stuck with that. I'm at like level 96 or 7 on Stormburst now. It's really fun. Handles everything in the game pretty easily. Very interesting skill. I like the rework a lot.
Yeah, Stormburst was actually the next skill I wanted to go into as a cultist, maybe. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, and
It's
it
so
seems like a
good.
cool skill.
There's so many options now. I can't pick a new build. I'm like, I want to play this, and I want to play that, and I want to play this, and I want to play that.
What have you played so far, though, Balor? I saw some little bit of some minor gameplay with what was it? Wave of
Well,
Conviction.
I started as a support, and my carry was a Wave of Conviction miner, which works really well. And then my next character was like, well, I want to make one of them myself, except solo, and see how well it can do without support. Still really well. Then what did I do? I'm playing a Winter Orb Trickster. There was something in the middle. I made a Bane Occultist as well already. There's 2 characters that are halfway through leveling, but then I abandoned them because I got too excited about the next idea instead. It's not even that they weren't working. They were working, but I got really excited about the next thing I was going to do, and I was like, oh no, I got to start leveling this one now. But there's too much. There's too much. There's too many things I want to do.
It's so hard to do that as well, because then you get you get people in your chat who are excited about you trying out their favorite skill, and then when you get to Blood Aqueducts with it, but you want to try something else the next day, they're like, but Mr. Broadcaster, where's the ice trap? No.
Why aren't you playing that? I really wanted to see that. You're like, but
for me, it's easy though. Oh yeah, for Paws as well.
I get that question from chat a lot. How does Wave of Conviction work? Because you're only supposed to have 1 out. You can have as many out as you want. The skill kind of lies to you. It's just that only 1 can have the full duration. So what happens is when you detonate a bunch of mines at once, one of them goes the full length, which with SAB AoE is practically the entire screen, except just only in one direction. And the rest of them reach this minimum duration, which is just like a little circle around your character. So for most of map clearing, even though you detonate 4 mines at once, you only have the 1 wave that goes full screen, which is more than enough to clear anything. And then when you're on single target and you need it, you just get right up into its business, and then all 4 waves will hit it, because the 4 with minimum duration only go that little distance. And that's just how the whole thing functions. It's really, really good. I did fail for Uber Elder sets with it, but I think that's mostly because I'm garbage and not because the skill is bad. Having the extra bit of having to like get into melee range of everything when I'm not really comfortable with the fight or really good at it made me die a lot. But
talk
I ended
about
up changing to Purifying Flame, I think, to kill it. But
it's finished. You just reminded me. Like, talk about being garbage. Like, wow, I had the league of my life in hardcore. I just died so many times to little stupid things and also big stupid things. It's just... I started off with ED Contagion Trickster, leveled that to 89, was actually gaining ground, was top 50 sort of self-found Trickster, and like slowly climbing the ladder. Because I'm not the fastest early, and I also value my sleep. And I just killed myself to darkness damage. I didn't have flares. Darkness damage, tried to log out. My logout key wasn't working because I have a keyboard where you can have, how you call that? Like where the function keys double as media keys, sort of. So the media key that you have to hold down for the double function can actually lock in place. And then it
Oh, this is a very shiny keyboard.
So when I tried to log out, I reduced the brightness of my keyboard illumination.
You were killed by the darkness, both in the game and on your keyboard.
Basically, yes.
wow.
So, and then I manned up. I was like, okay, let's now we have to pool all the resources. We go even harder. And within 10 hours, I was back at level 79, going strong. And then I got basically bursted down by a random fortification trash mob, which was ironically because I get so much hate for being one of the only people that really like Betrayal, or seem to be, because people always like, oh, that shit, or I skip it in high maps, it's too rippy and so. I was always like, well, it's mechanical. You have to know which member to meet and everything. And I guess I got the punishment for my loudmouth there. And yeah, then played EK Occultist with the new Unleash support and Obliteration for poofs. Killed myself to exactly the same thing again. And then I did RF Trickster. And
You know it's only been about 3.5 weeks, right?
yeah. I died on that build. I don't even want to go into the death. Then I transferred to Trade League because I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm never going to use my 4 exalts that I've found by now. Let's just go into Trade League because for 3x I can buy accounts. I ended up making a Bane Occultist. Bane is so good because I also have the unique gloves that cast socketed curse skills when you use a curse skill. And Bane is the first curse skill that deals damage. So it also makes perfect use of that helmet that everyone's using for it now, the +2 curse helmet, Dredry's Scorn. Exactly. It was previously a trash tier item, now it's like a godsend for Bane.
Still only 1 chaos, by the way.
I don't understand, but it's probably just a little bit too common for how powerful it is now. Yeah, and then since then I've been stuck on the idea of making a Stormburst jug. That's what I did yesterday. Invested a whole lot of...
Stormburst jug?
Yeah, because like we said, Stormburst is in a really good spot. I played a Stormburst Elementalist and died. That one I didn't mention, but now I had to. And I was like, Stormburst, yeah, that's it. I just don't want to die again. And then I made a jug. And then I killed myself yesterday night to reflect in Eternal Lab. When it was way past my bedtime, but one of my viewers debated me into Eternal Lab because he was like, layout is second best this league. It's so good. All dark shrines on the main path. And so that was my extended league summary so far. I've just learned this league that I'm not a really good player at all.
I don't know about that. You're still going at it. That is determination. That is one aspect of being a good player, I'd say.
I mean, you first got to experience it, know about it firsthand or see it at someone else and avoid it.
Yeah.
Just don't get hit, forehead.
Just don't get hit, yeah.
Yeah. That works until the person hitting you is your own character.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about determination and getting up again. There was a lot of deaths in the PoE community because recently there was 2 big races where people push as hard as possible, and I've seen a lot of amazing rip clips of the top tier players. Octavian actually casted the camel race yesterday. From what I've heard, I've not been able to look into the VODs, and I did steep. But how did that go?
It was our closest race that we've had so far. The first and second place were within, I think, a minute or less of each other. And that was Tie 23 and Havoc. And they would probably have been second and third if it weren't for the fact that Leaf ripped about 5 minutes before the end, or like 6 minutes before the end, or something like that.
Damn.
And Havoc as well was in a map that had Syndicate in it. And there's a chance that if he had stopped and done the Syndicate instead of skipping it and gotten the XP from it, he might have been able to take first if he had killed the Syndicate quickly enough. Like, it was insanely close at the end.
Wow.
Yeah, I was actually watching it live and I was like, but I need to go to sleep, but I want to watch, but sleep. No, I'm just going to stay here glued. And I was just watching the Syndicate.
If one of them was half an hour in front, would you have gone to bed? Been like, all right, I know who the winner is, sweet.
Probably, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, when
close.
the races, like, this format was really good because everyone was still racing and they were close to each other. Like, Havoc was trying to do an Ellie weak map and put resists on his boots so he can do it and not die. And he was trying to juggle all of that and still be fast. And then Leaf, poor Leaf, God, he, like, the Act 6 wheel mobs, they're so terrible.
Oh, yeah.
He just, like, got shotgunned by all of them, by a sub-fizz totem buffing them. It's like, those kind of races, you're just glued there waiting, like, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna get screwed over?
Yeah, I think it was helped along a lot by the fact that it was only to level 80 instead of 85. So
Yeah, definitely.
there was not that, like, long drought of mapping for the last 5 levels post 80 where people kind of have their build already put together for that level of content and they're pretty unlikely to die to like tier 4 or 5 maps, but they don't need to progress past that too much to still be competitive.
For the people who are out of touch with the current PoE race meta, just how long did it take to reach level 80? You said
5 hours and 3 minutes, I believe.
Wow.
Or 5 hours and 5 minutes. It was just over 5 hours.
Jesus.
I get sub 5 hour Act 10 Kitava on a good day.
And as far as the skills used, it was exclusively Stormbrand and Winter Orb at the end, with Winter Orb having a relatively low showing and most of it being Stormbrand.
Yep, that makes sense.
There was
Stormbrand OP.
Camel was doing Toxic Rain, but he ended up dying in Blood Aqueduct, sadly.
Was he at least going like competitively until then?
I think he died at rank 14 or 13. So not top 5 or anything like that, but he was doing pretty well. He's got a fully commentated, recorded sub 4-hour Act 10 Kitava with Toxic Rain as a Deadeye, which is probably the cleanest Toxic Rain run out there.
Toxic Rain is actually a really good skill.
Oh yeah.
Played it to 99 in Delft. Super fun. Strong. Combines well with the Caustic Arrow as a support or additional damage. And now with the non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier, it's really strong.
And the next race that Camel's going to be hosting, which will be in a month, is going to be, instead of first past the post overall as the winner, it's going to be class based and it's going to be open registration. So anyone can choose to compete, and there's going to be rewards going out for each base class. So not each ascendancy, but each base class, like Witch, Marauder, Duelist.
Which means people who are a little more garbage, like me, can pick a shit class that all the races don't want to touch, and then go for that.
And hopefully we won't see pretty much only Stormbrand and Winter Orb, and might see a bit more diversity in terms of skill choice.
Is that one going to 80 as well?
Yes, that's going to be the level 80.
I feel really bad for whoever picks Duelist. I'm sorry.
Why is that? Are you planning Duelist? Pause.
No, it's just I feel
just
like
have
it's
to
one
play
of the
Duelist.
worst ones. Oh god, no. Like I had to watch my friend play Duelist at the league start. He was crying with Sunder, like, my baby Sunder, it doesn't work. Like, he's looking forward to melee changes. I guess for racing, that's going to be interesting if it will indeed shake up Stormbrand, or if they really need to completely nerf Stormbrand to open up other racing options.
I mean, I don't know that GGG has a lot of stock in manipulating the racing meta. Like, if that's something that they're really concerned with their balance changes and patch notes and such.
No, but they generally pick things that are really popular or played a lot, and I guess races also help influence that, because a lot of people play with Stormbrand up to level 80 or 85. They delete the character, but statistically, that's an extra character playing Stormbrand.
As well as that, let me open up the site, because there was some mention of having a finals event, a finals race event at ExileCon, and I think that's the only mention they have of like racing officially in general.
Yes, I read that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what for though? Finals for what?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't.
Let me open up the site.
I read that and I was like, excuse me, race seasons? Actual like GDG race seasons?
Held in Auckland, New
that-
Zealand, ExileCon is a celebration of all things Path of Exile. Experience announcements of future expansions, play unreleased content, watch the best Path of Exile racers compete in tournaments, and attend talks by GGG developers. So they plan on race events at ExileCon, which, unless they're planning on holding the whole tournament at ExileCon, like locally, that would mean there might be, upcoming events. I have no knowledge of this, like no inside information or anything like that. This is just all purely speculation off of the official ExileCon site.
I'm going to say it would be really cool to have a race tournament there, because that would have everyone playing on the same systems, which we're all unfamiliar with, which would put everyone on even ground. Same latency, same load time, same everything on everyone. That would be cool.
It's very exciting. I like seeing GGG express interest in getting back into the racing scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I've made several attempts at trying to bring attention to the fact that there was a variety of races back in the day, or like even as it's not even much more than a year ago, leading up to the release of 3.0, the 10-act expansion, we had a lot of races when Legacy League was still going on, right? Like a hype race season for the upcoming 3.0 launch. Anyway, but I just want to quickly show on screen here what I'm talking about, and that's here these old race events on the Path of Exile page. This is the race events and League Ladders thread during June 2017. So we had 2-hour Uber Beyond, 1 hour Winterheart Ledge, Mistress of Flame Kill, which is in the Descent Champions thing. 2 hours Exiles Everywhere, Headhunter races, Invaders Everywhere. So many cool race types.
Blamp. Blamp was fantastic. I want Blamp back.
What does that stand for again? Totems, Blood Magic, Turbo.
Blood Magic, Lethal, Ancestral, Multi-Projectile, Turbo.
Yeah.
Lethal is 60% physical as extra fire,
For sure.
chaos, and cold and lightning.
Yeah.
And all the other ones
extra as everything.
Blamp as a private league option would be kind of cool.
That would be cool. I'm actually not sure why that wasn't in there.
I guess it adds totems, which can drop stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of minor.
That is a strictly down speaking. And the cost of everything else that comes with it, that is
what they
harder.
should do. Because Chris has mentioned a few times that, if he had his way, there'd be like a director's cut version of Path of Exile that's crazy difficult and stuff. They should put that together and then offer it as a private league package. They should have the Chris Wilson director's cut privately.
Okay with it.
Like, that would be so cool. To play PoE as Chris Wilson intended.
I would play that during the last month of every league and just die repetitively.
To be fair, like, currently putting all mods on the league is pretty hard. And I think Project PT made this challenge, which is actually with a prize pool of several $100s, I think, for the first person to kill Uber Elder. Actually, the first 3 different character classes that kill Uber Elder in that league. And so far, no one has killed it yet. I heard of one guy killing Yellow Elder in that Almonds League, which is pretty impressive already, but he has since died. There's not even a rip VOD of his death because he just was farming some lowy stuff off stream. Is anyone engaged with it, or anyone watched any of the how it's called actual hardcore?
Like, I haven't watched a lot of it, but I do know of the league itself. The issue is like Path of Exile and stacking all the damage modifiers. It's like you're so pigeonholed in specific builds and defenses that I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. I already play hardcore. I'm already pigeonholed. Like, please, I want to play the game.
The mods that I take issue with that I wouldn't want to play the league for are the no stash and no vendors and that sort of thing.
Yes.
They certainly make the game more difficult, but at the cost of far too much fun for it to ever be something I'd consider.
So I really like the no gear drops mod where you have to craft everything because I find that really interesting and fun.
Yeah.
And that does make it more difficult, but having no stash, that as soon as there's no stash in a private league, I'm like, well, I've lost interest in that. There's too much shit for me to carry. Like, just maps.
I mean, no
I've
stash
got 7
sounds
inventories
cool.
full of maps right now. Like, what?
Like, it sounds cool, but in practice, like, take synthesis items, for example. What the fuck do you do?
You don't
You need
synthesize
3
anything.
copies of an item. You can't synthesize anything.
Do things just not drop with a fractured mod locked in place in a no rares privately?
Oh,
you just
that's
don't get
interesting.
fractured gear.
I'm pretty sure they drop rare, just like veiled items also drop rare.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there are
I
some
played the
specific
league.
things.
Then you really do get quite a number of rare items. Because if you're engaging with
Yeah.
synthesis content at all, like that drops like 3, 4, 5 rare items per map.
Yeah, but specialized chests in Delft don't drop rare items. So if you're going for the minion and aura items nodes, they drop white without modifiers. So that's actually, for me personally, that's one of the worst mods, I think. After having played the league during Betrayal, I made a Toxic Rain Pathfinder in the actual hardcore league that was going on at the time. I played it, I think, to 87 because I had the most abundant RNG that I've ever had in any league. I've actually gotten a Belly of the Beast and a, what was the name? Jeweler's Touch from the Valley. And I got a Gull from one of my first safe houses. So it was insane. The character is still alive, but when Betrayal ended, Betrayal disappeared as a mod from the Custom League. The Custom League is still ongoing, but now is a Vanilla League, because at the moment they took out Betrayal, they took it away from all the Custom Leagues that have been started during Betrayal, which is a little bit
They
weird.
They actually did that about a week before Betrayal ended.
Exactly.
You couldn't make a new custom league for if you wanted a 3-day custom league race or whatever. You couldn't make one with Betrayal still in it, even though Betrayal League was still going at the time.
Yeah, that was
It
pretty
very
weird.
Hmm.
I know people wanted to try and do another mini short race right before the new league started, but you couldn't do. You had to do a vanilla
And
one.
just have a standard race.
Yeah.
No thanks.
To be fair, I think we'd probably even take standard races if GGG organized them, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I really want is I want the special short race types back, because this ties a little bit into all the criticism that was on Reddit, where people are just complaining about it being more of a no-life contest, which is completely fine. I'm fine with, the method race was set up to be a league start race. That's why it was a level 100 race, so it would have felt natural, but I personally can't partake in any of those long races because I just can't do it. I can't deprive myself of sleep. I can't push as hard anymore. But I'd really love to get better at racing and to do the 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour type of races. But those are pretty much not held because, well, I guess the races to level 80 should be fine for me if I practice a little bit. But I just want the special type races back. Descent Champions is such a fun race type, and it's not been there for over a year. Most people that play Path of Exile nowadays probably don't even know what that is, what I'm referring to.
I knew where that was going from the start. Descent Champions was the landing point of that sentiment, and
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
There's a far better option now.
I feel like they don't want to give it to us as an option to make a league out of it, make our own races, because then people could practice. One of the things about Descent, why it was, except the fact that it was different, people couldn't really practice it or get better than other people unless you were there for every single race that they had, which is different compared to, I don't know, Merville runs where we can go and practice. And I don't think they want us to be able to practice them.
Don't you think that favors people that have been playing the game since beta over people who just started to play the game, who would potentially be better racers? I mean, isn't that a little bit unfair?
Why?
Well, I guess it's an experience-based game, knowledge-based game, so people who play longer always have more advantage.
That's kind of how Path of Exile has always been. Knowledge is power in this game.
Yeah, but knowledge of something knowledge of something that you can't experience.
Yeah, but that's
you don't have access to.
If you've got a job and someone's been doing your job for 40 years and you've been doing it for 2 years, you don't deserve the same as they do. That's just how it is. That's just the reality of everything. Is if you've been playing it for a long time and you know a lot more, you're gonna do better. Okay.
But yeah, their excuse with all the races, the reason why they stopped is because they had to pay for different art on items and find ways to design rewards that were interesting for everyone. Basically, it wasn't profitable.
That's what they were writing? Because that was the most significant or the biggest takeaway message that I had from the post where they wrote about why they're not doing races at the moment was that it was just hurt player retention because it would make the leagues end faster. Because people would, just not play and then they wouldn't be available for trades, and that would in turn make other people leave because they felt that the league was dead because people were not trading them items. So I think it's all a deeper problem, especially a problem rooted in trade.
I mean, let's put it this way. Then we wouldn't have private leagues because they take away from the leagues. Then we wouldn't have self-fund because they take away from the leagues. Then we wouldn't have so many goddamn things.
But exactly. That's why I'm saying now that we've got private league.
Like, listening to them talk generally, like, they always spin it up in a nice PR way that doesn't actually tell you why. Because they can't really go, yeah, it's not really making us money, so, sorry. It's like, performance updates, they don't post about those on the top pages of every gaming news website. So we can't really do a league about performance updates. We're sorry. Excuse the extreme sarcasm.
We have a fifth guest on the show.
Yeah. I keep getting distracted by the cat. It's adorable.
She just wants to say hi to everyone.
Mine's never in for the podcast. So, yeah, yeah, the racing. It's just a sad thing. I don't even think we can conclude this topic. I think we need to wait for GGG's next move, because obviously
I have one more thing on racing. One thing that I really, really, really want to see. I want to do an endless delve race where all you do is you get to town in Lion Eyes. You can't leave the other side. You have an unlimited amount of juice. It starts at like an appropriate level, like, level 1. You can pick up whatever vendors are in the town, whatever gems are in the town when you get there, and that is it. Everything else has to be found in Delft. If you want support gems, find them in the Delft. If you want a different active skill, find it in a gem node. Like, everything down there. Some certain depth where you get to ascend just without running the trial at all. There'll just be a certain depth where, like, every single node across this depth level will have like an ascension plaque, so you can ascend and then just keep going. And just endless delve race where absolutely everything has to be found in the mine. That would be fantastic.
I think a lot of us have been wanting like endless delve, but like, I would even be okay.
I would even actually want them to make it a slightly different version of the delve where it's not infinitely sideways.
Oh my.
That's so that you're forced to continue down until you fucking die. Like, I don't want it to have no sideways. Like, there should be a little bit of room so that when you start getting dodgy, you can like snake around the place and whatnot. But I do want everyone forced down until you die. And then it's not a race of who can be the highest level. It's the race of, you've got 3 days to play this delve or whatever.
Well, you could
who's got the deepest depth.
Yeah, you could just make it so that the winner of the race is the person with the deepest depth rather than the person that's the highest level, and then people are forced to dig down without having to, change the delve code.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If they want to place, at least. If you don't want to place, I guess you can go sideways forever. But that's just if you want to play infinite delve because it's the only content you like.
I mean, I think a lot of people.
And you'd have to void that race. It would have to be void.
Yeah, I think we talked about this concept on the episode that we had during Delft, and we were all actually expecting this very move by GGG as an end of league race. But I think that was about the time where they also decided to not have race events like that anymore in between. Or
I mean, for this one,
go ahead.
Sorry,
please.
For this one, I actually see why they don't want to implement it, because this would take away from the leagues. Let's be honest. How many of you are going to want to, I don't know, go out to trade with someone if you can infinitely delve?
I'm not doing shit. I'm turning off my tabs if I can go in a delve race. They're gone.
So a lot of people are just going to go, yeah, I'm just going to delve for 5 days.
There's a tab with like 15x worth of shit for sale. I just turned that off. It's gone. I don't need that. I'm delving now. I barely want to leave my delve right now in the trade league to go and do a trade if it's under like an exalt. And I don't even have a lot of money. I'm just really enjoying delving, and I'd like to not have to leave to go trade.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hope that the future will hold something for us with all the community hype around the community organized race events. Hopefully, GGG will recognize that competitive PoE is definitely something that they have to invest into or help the community make it a thing. Because I think that can attract a lot of people that currently are not really that attracted to Path of Exile.
Yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic with the talk of a race finals on their website about ExileCon. And that means that there's some plans
Talk's
for
a
racing in
stretch.
some form.
Yeah, that means
There's
that they
a
still consider
tease.
racing a pillar of the Path of Exile thing, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. That's great.
Yeah.
Then about the league, I guess. How much have you guys been enjoying the league, the synthesis mechanics, and have you been finding them complex enough or too complex and rewarding enough or not rewarding enough until the patch on Friday?
Well,
So the mechanics pre-patch is what you're asking?
Let's talk about pre-patch first because I think that's the
Because
longest
pre-patch,
time.
the memory map was a mess. Like the Nexus was a mess. As far as synthesis crafting goes, I have to recognize my own bias here because I grew up like reading D&D rule books and looking through them for all the obscure rules to make my characters with, and spending like 5 hours in a day building a character or putting together a Magic the Gathering deck or something. So I really like going to third-party websites or reading through rule books and finding all the tiny little bits of details to make something cool with. I actually really enjoy that. But I recognize that's not something that a lot of people want when they're going into their video game that they get to play for an hour a day between their day job and taking care of their kids or whatever. So I think the synthesis crafting system is something that has a place in Path of Exile, but shouldn't have been a core tenet of the league. And I think that's one of the big problems with it. Like the memory map was really poorly implemented before the patch. Post patch, it's actually pretty good and rewarding and fun to interact with, in my opinion. But pre-patch, like when the most problems were being had at the league, the memory map was really poorly implemented. So it couldn't really stand as a core mechanic of the league because it just wasn't fun and rewarding. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, I'm going to mess with synthesis crafting. Let's see if that's got something for me here, something new and shiny I can play with. And it's really confusing and unrewarding unless you dig into it a ton. So it couldn't really stand as a core mechanic of a league. I think if the memory map had been implemented in its current state, the league would be a lot more better received because people wouldn't have
Ooh,
gone
yeah.
to synthesis crafting and been like and looked to it to be the content of the league, because it's not. It's like icing on the cake. The cake is supposed to be the Nexus memory mapping.
So I don't think that that's actually the problem with crafting. I
Okay.
think the problem with synthesis crafting is that there is like a tier 1 top tier result, really, really, really good, hard to get. And in almost every case, literally everything under the absolute top tier is complete garbage and not worth having. And so you're either perfectly min-maxing it at very expensive rates, hard to get, having to trade for all these things, 86 bases and all sorts of stuff, or you get nothing. So there's just nothing for most people because most of it is a waste of time. It's a very generalization. There's a few specific things, non-ailment, chaos damage over time, multiplier, and stuff like that you can get with pretty minimal investment if you know what you're doing. But for the most part, most of the crafts you're looking at 150 to 200 chaos per attempt to have a 50% chance at getting one of these good things, which is super fine to have for all the min-maxers that have all the money and really want to do that. But there's nothing for everyone below that. There's just nothing. There's just 8 million, a list of 8 million completely garbage implicits that might come out that you don't want.
The
And I think
difficulty
if we got rid of 3/4 of them, it would be a better league.
The difficulty there, though, is that the implicit slot is not meant to be a power slot on an item. It's not meant to be comparable to a regular affix on an item. And so they kind of, if they're going to add power to the implicit slot, they kind of have to go about that by making it very difficult to acquire, like they've done with Voling in the past. and with like double corruptions and stuff. Like the most comparable system to this in the game, I would say, is the double corruption altar. And the double corruption altar from Incursion. But the thing about that is that back in Incursion, they didn't try and make the double corruption altar half the goddamn league mechanic. Like that is like, I think synthesis crafting would be fine if there had been more to memory mapping. You know, people, it wouldn't have been a big of a laser focused problem for the community, because it could have just been that thing that min maxers do, if it wasn't a huge shiny device in the middle and there weren't synthesis rares being crapped out everywhere and it wasn't trying to stand as half the goddamn league. That's not what this mechanic is going to be able to do. Like, a mechanic like this can exist in your game, but it can't be like the spotlight of a league, because it's not for most players in its current state.
What I'm curious to hear, Pause, have you utilized the synthesis mechanics, the Nexus mapping, or the synthesizing base items in your push?
No, not exactly. I mean, I did do mostly like Kvass memory things. Sadly, I didn't know that if you don't actually interact with the mechanic or press the fragments, you get the nice beach layout and you get to, you know, stroll and chill and get nice XP. I didn't know that at the start. But I also didn't get to experience a lot of the league because I had one of those bugs where you couldn't actually interact with the league for a week until they decided to fix it. Because, you know.
Yeah.
So there were too many bugs with this league.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Actually too many.
It's,
I mean,
almost inexcusable amount.
Between playing hardcore and being stuck, not being able to interact with the mechanic, and when I finally am able to interact with it, it's buggy, it's clunky, it doesn't work half the time, you get teleported randomly, all those things. Like, you guys are talking about like people turning to craft, but in hardcore, for example, there aren't even enough bases for a lot of things. You try. I had whoops for wands. Sorry, that's a cat. I had whoops for wands. I finally finished crafting my wand today. Almost a month into the league. Like that's getting the explodey stick with light radius on wands. And it doesn't work on mines.
Oh no.
Oh no, really?
It's bugged.
Wait, what?
Yeah. It's
what?
bugged.
No, that should
it's
definitely
exact
still
the
work.
same ward.
Like a shaper mace works.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a shaper mace actually works. We tested it last league and it was fine. But this one, the exact same wording, except instead of killed enemies, it says enemies killed. Because that makes a whole lot of sense of difference.
Syntax has never been Path of Exile's strong point. Never. They really need to get someone on just like data entry who just goes through everything in Path of Exile and makes sure if there's two instances of the same mechanic, it's worded the same. You know, there's things that say if you've crit recently and things that say if you have crit recently. And when trying to search for stuff on PoE Trade, it's really annoying that one has a contraction and one does not. Like, it just...
Okay, but those are different mods.
If you've
one
crit
of them
recently
works with
and
totems,
if you have
and
crit
one of
recently?
them doesn't. Yeah, one of them works on totems, and the other one does not.
Why?
Because one says you and the other doesn't.
Well, no, they both say you. It's just one is you that's contracted with the word have. That is still the word you.
But they're different.
I understand basic English grammar.
Okay. I thought it was kind of like you killed and killed instead of saying you killed.
Yeah, just like the explodey sticks Paws is talking about. The wording is just killed, have killed, or have, whatever.
Killed
like
enemies
two
and
words
enemies
swapped
you
around.
Killed. Yes.
Yeah, there's like two words swapped around, but it's mechanically completely different. The explodey mace will work on totems, traps, mines, and the new synthesis bases will not work on totems, traps, and mines.
What was the wording difference?
Directly.
Pause. What was the wording difference between mace and implicit? Do you remember?
Yeah, give me 1 sec just to see the.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I don't remember which one's which. I do remember the wording for them, but not
Let
which
me just
ones
quickly
were.
use that moment to say that with synthesis crafting, yeah, there's these insane things like the if corrupted modifiers, and you said, Balor, that there's not much in between, but I think it's fairly easy to get like a move speed implicit on boots, which is like, it's not the world, but it does make your boots better, especially if you can get top tier movement speed on them, and then you have another 6, or what is the maximum that you can get? I think 6 is what I got by, just by trying randomly. 8
Get
is
up
the
to 8.
max.
But yeah, no, there are a few specific things. There's the move speed, the non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier.
Yep.
and like 2 or 3 other things where there are some decent stepping stones. Like there's some, even if you've just got items from some yellow maps, you'll be able to make something that's a bit of use. But for the most part, it doesn't exist. There's just a few very specific things.
There used to be a means by which you could sort of self-build your own fractured items and target certain roles and have a bit more agency over the system, but it got removed. There were dead mods that you could get. On a bow, for instance, if you got life gained on kill, that didn't have a corresponding implicit for a little while. It was bugged. So that means that if you got... It does, yes. So that means if you got life gained on kill on a bow and you alt spam to that bow into having +1 socketed gems, and then you regold and won the 50-50 annul, which is still moderately expensive, but not, as expensive as it could be through other systems, then you'd be able to isolate plus bow gems or plus gems deterministically without having to get that as the fractured mod in place. But they got rid of all the dead mods as far as I'm aware. Fizz and Mana Leech, life and Mana Leech from Fizz damage, life gained and mana gained on kill, and life gained on hit are no longer dead mods.
It gets slightly more confusing because I think I read yesterday that if you corrupt your fractured bases, there's now a whole lot of new implicits that enter the pool.
That is probably the most easily deterministically available mods you can get as implicits, because you can very safely corrupt with the Beast Altar by corrupting an item to 30 quality. So you can corrupt it without having to risk it at all. And I was actually, the next project I was going to work on was a chess piece for a trickster build with like % max life, and then corrupted, because you can get an implicit with 5% reduced damage taken from everything all the time if corrupted. And then other good implicits like Frenzy Charge on hit or Endurance Charge when hit.
Yeah, I was going to work on Curse Immunity Shield.
Yep.
Because why not?
Apparently that one's really easy to get too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's weird how
was.
It's weirdly specific how like certain things that are kind of crazy powerful are really easy to get. Like you can get 5% reduced damage taken from everything on a chess piece just by using the Beast Altar and corrupting them to 30 quality, and that goes into your pool.
Like, circling back to my my wand and its light radius issues. Like I was crafting, that was my first project. I was like, oh my god, you can get explodey stick on wands. Finally my KB can explode. I was so excited. I tunnel visioned. Like everything else, nah, I ignored. And then I started crafting some other things, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, it's so much easier to craft things when you don't need light radius. First of all, the base doesn't exist in hardcore. You can barely get them. My entire group was using alterations to spam for light radius on wands and gambling that way. But you were saying that things are invaluable, and yes, I agree. Like light radius, if it's below the threshold, it's useless because it's very crap. But at the same time, these bad mods, like light radius, reduced attributes, increased attributes, things like that, they're so nice because now they have somewhat of a value. It's a shame that it's only at the highest tier. You need T1 for them. But they're really nice otherwise.
So there's the link about the wand you made. So the wand says, killed enemies explode, dealing 3% of their life as physical damage. And the explodey mace says, enemies killed explode, dealing.
Yeah.
So the difference is literally killed enemies or enemies killed, and the rest of it is the same.
And a coma.
Oh, yep.
Wait, but so does the wand work now or not? Does it not work with mines, but it would use if you were to attack yourself? Or
yes, if I attack myself, the wand works. If I attack with mines, it does not work.
But if she puts on a Shaper Explodey Mace and uses, obviously not Kinetic Blast because it's a mace, but
Yeah, if I
mine
use like
skill,
arc
it
mines
works.
or anything else, like it works with the Shaper base.
Mm-hmm. So the Shaper base Explodey works on mines, but this one doesn't, and all the difference is killed enemies or enemies killed. that's the wording difference.
I don't think that's down to the wording. I think that's down to being a bug, probably, which is unfortunate
Yeah.
because this league has been riddled with them. There's the most egregious bug, in my opinion. There's two. There's the bugs with betrayal, making it so some people literally just can't play the game whenever betrayal happens, which is horrible. And I'm glad that
one's the
been
worst.
mostly fixed at this point. I think there's still some people complaining about it, but it might be a different bug. And then there's the one that still hasn't been fixed yet, and which honestly has been very problematic for the synthesis crafting system, since we're on that topic, not being able to use fossils or essences on fractured items.
Wait, you can still not use them?
No,
Not with the
next
latest
week.
patch?
No, next
Unless there
week.
was one today that I'm not aware of.
No, they pushed it back to this coming week. It'll be in the next few days, apparently.
Yeah.
Potentially,
Yeah.
and it might work or it might not.
They
Because
said that though last week, so you know.
It there's some really cool implicits that you just literally cannot get right now. Things
Yeah.
like I think base crit as an implicit on body armor can only be gained with Essence of Contempt of a high enough tier or something. Like they're just actually not available.
There are a couple of things that not only are they not available, but it's really hard to get them if you wanted to try and craft them without fossils or without essences. Because you reach that's like, I need this much, I don't know, energy shield on my item, and you look and go, this would be so easy with an essence.
It would alleviate the system a ton. It would also make it like
It would
a
make
lot
it
easier for
easier.
middling players who don't have as much of a budget to get involved, or
Yeah,
easier on
exactly.
hardcore where you have fewer things to buy.
Like people that either like hardcore, solo self-found, or just people that aren't used to crafting or can't afford like the high-end super niche items. Like for example, a lot of people buy boots with suffixes and just use alterations and augments to get like T1 movement speed on their boots. But that's no longer affordable. It's been so popular and so widespread that most people can't afford to do that anymore. Most people already, like, when you see that item, it's like, oh, several exalts, thanks, just because it has an open prefix that people can craft on right now.
And that would be on, like, you mean I-86 boots to go for the 35, or are people doing that even as far down as ones to just go for the 30%?
People go even for 30. Like, some of them just, like, as Catmaster said, some of them just want the movement speed. They don't necessarily want the onslaught. And then you don't need as much, because the top tier, it works at lower value, but you need more if you want to gamble like 50-50 for either onslaught or movement speed. Like, I don't actually know the exact values. Let me see.
I think, I don't know, part of the problem as well of being in the middle of one of these projects and having it take, weeks and weeks to get the items that you need for the project, like you said, you had wand whoops up for a super long time. I think GG had tried to address that a little bit by making it so that more fractured items drop overall, because they drop now when you're running decayed and non-decayed memories.
Yeah.
But that is not, in my opinion, the best way to go about fixing that. Like, because the problem is people aren't picking them up or listing them.
Yep. What happened
So
is
if you
I
make-
went and worked on my loot filter to make it stricter so that I could
Yeah.
filter out the specific things I wanted. Now I pick up less fractured items than I did before.
If you make more stuff drop, they're not going to start picking them up magically. Change it so that like fractured items drop with T1 or 2 rolls more often, so they're more
The
enticing.
problem is people don't know what's valuable and what's not. Like, they don't understand. It's not that they don't understand. They don't want to sit there and go, okay, which base is T1 for evasion and T2 for evasion, and which one's T1 for energy shield, and learn the base types and then learn T1s for the items, because not every item is fixed when you hover over it to see the tier. Light radius, for example, T2 is listed as T1 in the game.
Yeah, I think the same thing with reduced attributes.
The other thing with that is the most common filter by far is NeverSync's filter, and it does absolutely nothing to filter fractured items. There's like if you get a 86 pair of boots, they're 50 chaos in softcore. You get an 86 fractured boot, no matter what is on it, they're 50 chaos. If you get an energy shield base, they're 80, even with shit mods. They show up looking exactly like everything else on all of the normal NeverSyncs ones. So what most people are using doesn't tell them anything is special about it. There's no extra reason to pick that up.
They could have fractured things drop identified, so that if a T1 roll is on the item, it gets high. I don't think it would be able to identify like this is a T1 fractured roll specifically, but that would help.
That would be
Wait, you can highlight certain mods
for if
outside
it-
of the special prefixes from the temple and from Delft? Because I
Yeah,
thought
you
that
can
was only
highlight
any
enabled
mod.
for.
Yeah, no, like
As long as
anything.
they are ID'd, yes, but most times they don't drop ID'd unless you have. the
However, they
sextant.
can't do that during the league because ID 1000 fractured items is a challenge.
Yeah, true.
this is true.
But if they add it to the base game, they could do that, and I would be a fan.
I mean,
I would think that'd be a good change.
let's be honest. Has GGG ever shied from screwing you over on challenges? you remember
Miranda's
when you
points.
had to kill Uber at
Miranda's
Siri
points.
and you did it in normal at Siri last week?
Yeah, that was
Like,
good.
I don't think challenges are really an issue to not fix it. But yeah, it's hard to fix something when it comes to loot because people don't know what's valuable, and even the people making the loot filters, I mean, they don't highlight everything that's good for every build or for niche builds, and people don't pick them up or list them for sale, and they won't do it even if you ID them because they won't know. It's like, why is this T1 item light radius on it? Light radius? Who uses that? Throw in the garbage. And you're like,
But
no,
that's-
why light radius?
See, that would be the difference between a good loot filter and not, though.
Yeah, but even
Like,
if the loot filter
if they were
tells you
dropping
it's
ID'd,
good.
If they were
Like,
dropping
At that
ID'd,
point, though, you do have to assume some responsibility from the player's point of view. If you have a tool that you've installed and you've installed that tool so that it can tell you what items are good, and it says this item is good, it's then at that point your responsibility to look up and say, all right, it's good because X. And if it's a fractured items that dropped, then you would go and look and try and find out what about this fractured item makes it good.
Yeah.
And that is where, you know, the player research outside of the game comes into play, and looking up things on trade, and where we get into the whole thorny issue of like how trade as a whole should be handled, and all of that, which, you know, is a can of worms we probably don't want to open up. But I do
unless
think
you've got
that
an extra
there's
2 hours.
we got some extra time scheduled, Catmaster.
We can do an extra bonus episode about trade.
There's some responsibility on the player's shoulders to know that what they have is valuable. That's part of interacting with a larger economy, and there's some skill to that. It's why some people can squeeze every last drop of value out of what they drop and make more currency. But you shouldn't not provide them with the tools to find out that information. Just like, in my opinion, like, we lost Balor.
We lost Balor.
Oh, there he is.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Balor.
What
But, like,
happened there?
I don't know.
I disappeared.
But it seems you're back with us now. So
Okay.
I've no need to panic anymore. But I think in every case in a game like this, the developers shouldn't shy away from complexity. But if they're going to put complexity into the game, they need to give players the tools to deal with it and understand it. So, like, have the items drop identified so that filters can sort through them to some degree, essentially. Or if there needs to be another solution, like paring down the number of fractured items that drop, but making them more consistently valuable when they do drop by improving the tiers of rolls. Just something that makes it less of a wall of text to navigate and more of a enjoyable game to interact with.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things where I feel like they failed. I don't mind complexity, and I don't mind going on PoEDB and checking everything out. I actually enjoy it because you can find really nice deals because people don't know that thing is a thing or it's good or valuable, and I like that. But I also feel like the regular players, people that play 2 hours, 3 hours, they just got home from work and they want to play a bit. They don't want to interact with this much loot or this much info. And I don't know. Like, on one side, I wish they wouldn't drop so many bad bases. Like, they drop a bit higher tier bases. We had wool shoes in an 84 area. We're like, with T1, yes, fractured. We're
wait.
like,
Go ahead.
okay, we can use it. We can gamble with it to try and get it on the good base, but it still feels like, okay. Playing in hardcore, you don't really get to gamble too much with bases because you don't see as many good bases or high bases, especially not 86 ones. I could probably count on my fingers how many we've had drop.
Mm.
So it's hard to say. Like, they balance towards, I guess, softcore more, the game itself, and you can't satisfy absolutely everyone. But sometimes I wish they would just raise the limit on like tiers. Like, you'd get higher tiers whenever you're doing the highest content possible.
Even
Yeah.
that's something I've said a bunch before, which is what I would like to see is when you progress through content, just some of the, as you get higher level stuff, some of the bottom rolls that could be on items just being removed.
Yeah.
Rather than, so not like heavily weighting it or weighting it at all towards a tier 1 roll. But if it goes all the way down to like, some things go down to like, there's like a tier 14 energy shield roll. If I'm doing a tier 16 map, you could knock out the bottom 4 and just have, tier 10 be the worst that could possibly roll, which would still be garbage and would still have, shit items dropping. But just getting rid of like the bottom third of rolls by the time you hit tier 16.
I can't even tell you
Would
how
make,
many items I identified that have exactly 1 ES.
right? Like that, you shouldn't be able to get a 1 ES roll from
Well,
a
how am I
piece of
going-
gear at all that drops in a tier 16.
How am I going to collect my +1 maximum yes item?
I need my eye level 86 dang yo fish scale gauntlet. Very important. No, particularly on fractured items, since so few of them drop compared to generic rare items, they could very much afford, I think, to weight it towards better bases, so you don't get eye level 86 wool shoes, and weight it towards better rolls. Maybe even just the fractured roll is more likely to be better, and the rest of it is still the same. I don't know. Like, and if you have to cut the drop rate in half, that's probably fine too, because I'd much rather pick up half the amount of stuff and have it be twice as likely to be worthwhile.
What's it?
Yeah.
I currently leave 80% of the bases that are fractured on the floor.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw you
So
leave
cutting
ones
them in
on the ground.
half. Yeah, well, there's.
I
you
mean,
can
they're
pick
not
them
worth
up for an
picking up.
Alkin softcore.
Yeah, they're not worth picking up.
If it's not an 86 base, this is not worth my time.
Oh, like that's the sad part. I was there like crying. I'm in hardcore. Can I have your base? And you're like, yeah, that's not worth my time.
Feels bad, man. Yeah, I haven't perceived it that much. I haven't perceived it as that bad, honestly, probably just because of the fact that I didn't interact that much with it. I thought it was something like somewhat reminiscent of Dark Shrines and Talisman, a little bit, the League, in that aspect, that it's, very grindy to get the highest tier of rewards, and it's also a little bit playing around what results in what. And for me, I found on my limited impression that it was completely okay, but it's interesting to hear you guys talk on it, because I'm sure you've all interacted a fair bit more with the League mechanics and the synthesized bases than I have.
I don't know. We've been a little down on the league, a little negative, which is it's a relatively easy league to do that. I just want to say that I really like the core concept of this mechanic. When I first saw the list of like this corresponds to that on PoEDB, I was goddamn blown away by the fact that literally everything has a corresponding implicit, and I think that's pretty cool. But it's just it needs polish. Like it needs to be tweaked in a few places. You make it so that the quality of the average fractured item is higher. You make it so that you can actually use essences and fossils on fractured items. You make the
I feel like
system
that's a sticking
work
point.
in that regard. That would
Work
be
as
great.
announced. Wow.
And you make it maybe so that there's more tools at the player's disposal to sort through these things, like loot filters. And I think the core of the system can remain. I think that's like perfectly fine, actually.
No, prior to the patch, honestly, I think it's one of the worst leagues they've ever done. And I give GGG a lot of shit for how they test their game. Like, I worked as a tester, I worked as a lead tester, I've worked with developers, and sometimes it feels like they don't listen or they don't test certain things, and it's frustrating. But while I give them shit, I still love the game and I still play it for a very, very long time. And this league, it was one of those leagues where I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to play something else for a bit until they patch it. It was just that bad and frustrating. Like, people not being able to interact at all with the league for a week, people not being able to craft, and then people not being able to reap their rewards because they would get teleported randomly somewhere else, or the teleport wouldn't work, crashes, disconnects.
That's still an issue to some degree, by the way.
You could
Yeah.
actually end up in an empty zone, by the way. Like I didn't teleport back to an island. I teleported back to a void zone that had no memory placed on that square. And then there was no way to go back except to log out.
Wait, you were
there was
just in the middle of the
there.
black?
I was just out in the void. And like, how did I get here through the port? What happened here?
It's some hidden shaper backstory out in the
Yeah.
void. If you had waited long enough,
I should have
come by,
walked
you would've
around.
overlooked
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would have found Krilson.
But yeah, I think like all those issues really made the league unapproachable and not fun. And their patch and their fixes that are almost done, like the essences, fossils,
Yeah.
almost
A
done.
month in.
A month in, they almost
when they
managed.
fix these things, the last thing of just being able to use essences and fossils, once they fix that, the league is in the state that I wish it had launched in, and if
Yeah.
it did, it would probably be the most popular league that's happened in a while.
It would have been
because
a really,
it's
really
a
popular league.
so fantastic idea, and now the Nexus is so much fun. And if we were just able to craft properly, and it launched like that, it would have gone over so well.
And they were saying
gone
before
so
this
well.
league launched that they were planning on a smaller league to sort of give themselves a little bit of development downtime potentially before leading
Yeah.
up to 4.0. And I don't know whether or not this is their idea of a smaller league, or if they just didn't want to go with that approach because they're very, very ambitious and they wanted to go like, well, we said we're going to do a smaller league, but this will work. We'll be able to get this out in time. And that ambition may have bit them a little bit.
Like I've said a few times that I feel like, and I know this isn't going to happen, but I feel like every league that comes out is just not quite as polished as it should be nowadays. And well, I fucking love all of it, but it seems like they could just benefit from extra time. Like, I would personally be really happy if they were like, actually, we're going to go to 4-month league cycles, and we're just going to have a bit of extra time to make everything good every time. I know that's not going to happen because, that's less launches and less money and less hype they can put out per year. And so I don't expect it to happen, but I would love it if they were like, we're just going to make them 4-month leagues instead of 3-month leagues, and we're going to work on them for the extra months so that
Wouldn't
so
that lead to
everything
the
comes
same
out
problem?
really well
Wouldn't they
and
just try to make the leagues then 133% of what they currently are? Because they're like, well, we have to compensate because we're only doing 3 releases per year now, so we're going to make them a little bit bigger, and then we'd run into the same problem.
Which is why I
again.
say it's not going to happen. But what I would like to see is for them to aim for
Yeah, I
exactly
would-
what they're doing, but just polish it properly.
Yeah,
Like,
Pause,
it
please.
would feel amazing if they just took the league and then did, I don't know, a 2-week race and then spent some of the time trying to fix performance or fix bugs or whatnot, instead of, here you go, this is the league, and we're working on fixing every single issue that we know exists in it, and whatever you find, and the actual league starts in a month, like they're doing right now, because they're hyping it up so much and they're showing so many things, and then they don't give those things, like the extra curse or the extra totem crafts that weren't even enabled last league, and they showed it, and then they were like, so where's the craft? Well, not available, sorry.
Yeah, I think
Or-
also being able to essence or fossil craft items with a guaranteed mod was one of the main selling points of the league, actually, or at least was for me. And it's now, like Balor pointed out, almost a month into the league, and we still don't have that.
Like, people
little
don't
bit
want to
sad.
wait.
Yeah, I'm also divided. I'm torn in between, like giving GGG props for actually being so dedicated that they make very, very deep changes, or that they're willing to make essential changes to an ongoing league in order to make the community enjoy it more. But at the same time, I feel I would prefer that the leagues would be released where such significant changes weren't necessary.
It is a really, really the Nexus map at least is a really, really difficult mechanic to balance, and I can understand why it came out in an unrewarding state, because as you tweak the numbers up on this, tweaking them up at all has really, really massive implications. Because if you think about it, like a chunk of memory that you get from running a map is about a third of a map worth of size, or a little bit more, and you get 2 to 3 charges out of that. So that means every map that you're running is 1 2/3 or even 2 maps worth of I-83 content if you're running T16s. If you do that in a 6-man party, every person in the party gets a copy of the memory fragment. You invest into one single map, and you get from that enough I-83 content to justify calling it like 4 maps. And you make those extra little bits off to the side rewarding enough to be competitive with the actual mapping that you're doing, which is what you need to do for it to feel good to run them. And suddenly every map is just like 2 maps for your average player and 4 maps for the people who are min-maxing in 6-man parties, and it's the most rewarding league ever. So it's really, really easy to overreact to that on the design side and tune down the values of rewards to the point where it doesn't feel worthwhile.
True, I mean, I much prefer the unrewarding balance towards reward approach rather than this feels super rewarding and good and then balance it into nothingness approach. But I feel like I'm in a minority here when I say that. I think most people just want a lot of rewards and then tune it down.
I think, and this is a rather extreme suggestion, an extreme change to the mechanic, so I don't know how you guys will feel about it, but I think they shouldn't have reward islands that contain chests on the memory map. And instead, you should have much more in-depth exploration of the memory modifier system. Have a bunch of different tiers of memory modifiers or types of memory modifiers, and have that be all that shows up alongside bosses. And so you're either building pieces with memory modifiers or you're hunting bosses. And that really encourages players to interact with the system in the way that makes it unique, which is considering zones as loot. So you get excited when you find a zone that has 4 pieces and good mods, because you know you can go back to your chart and invest into that with some really good memory modifiers and make it worth running. And that's different to Delve and different to Incursion, where you're just building rooms with chests in them. And it's much more interesting. And then you can tune the rewards up on the zone as well to compensate. You're not being weighed down by the fact that you're trying to tie this unique and very much different league mechanic system into the reward structures of previous systems that just don't work the same way.
I mean, before we go into your idea, as a side note, you mean like when heralds suddenly appear out of the blue just as you start your map because they didn't consider half dead packs equals heralds.
Yep.
Or
ob-
volatiles
obviously-
getting slowed down.
Obviously, in the situation where these egregious bugs are fixed. Talking about the mechanic functionally.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think they really consider a lot of things like how their vision works with how the mechanics they added from before work. Like someone posted a breach that was like, you know, the bridge that appears when you connect the memory.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was like at the end of the bridge, the breach just spawned there, like on the bridge that didn't exist yet, and they were just like, okay.
On the bridge that didn't exist.
Like that's the thing
Just-
with trying to fit into their idea of what they have reward wise. I don't think they really approach it like that. They just go, this is the mechanic and it will maybe drop some stuff. I mean, right now you have all the chests, all the cool stuff linking to all the other mechanics. Instead of having like the beasts, you have bestiary chests, which is different than just having the beasts. Would you prefer having the beasts but not chests with the rewards? Because then the beasts, you have to go run that content specifically. I know Balor really wants Nico, like Sulfite, on them.
Yeah. Give me sulfite. I want the Nexus to give me sulfite. I just want to go delving.
I think that the game would benefit from more of a sense of identity to the various different moving parts that it has now. So like, instead of having basically every mechanic in the game be able to give you basically every type of loot and reward, you segment those off so that Delve maybe doesn't give you as many maps and doesn't give you as many, talismans, which you can get randomly in Delve, and all these
Shaper
like
and
other
Elder
small
bases.
things, Shaper and Elder items. But Delve gives you like comparatively far more fossils than it used to. So if you get more identity to these different moving parts, so it feels more like you're doing your own discrete thing rather than just playing this amorphous mass of content that is Path of Exile, and you run into this problem where it just feels like a headache because you're trying to juggle all these different bars of fuel of one sort or another, and you just want to do one thing, and you just want to focus on that one thing. And so if you narrow down the rewards that each kind of content can give, then it's much easier to balance between them because you know what the player is going to get if they spend an hour delving, or what they're going to get if they spend an hour doing temples, or what they're going to get if they spend an hour doing maps. And then you can balance the content more easily between those. And you could then theoretically give players more freedom and agency in what sort of content they want to interact with. Like it's a massive overarching change. Obviously, I don't think there's 2 or 3 dials you can tweak to make that change. But if over the next few leagues you focus in on trying to narrow content down to certain margins of the game, then you maybe could have an easier time balancing them and fitting all these mechanics in together and have it not feel as messy.
I think I would love that.
That's something that I've already brought up doing Delve.
Yeah, I would love it if it feels weird to go and get aspect of the spider items in the Delve.
And it individually,
why is that happening?
Like, it dilutes the value of these things as well. So I think you brought it up on a podcast that I was on with you a long time ago, Balor, but you were complaining about the fact that there's now a div card that gives Starforge, for instance. When you segment
Watcher's
off
eyes.
like the places that you can get these rewards from, and you make it so that, okay, you want to get fossils? Well, you've got to focus on Delve. And that, for fossils, actually, that's maybe not a good example because that is exclusively where they come from. But making more exclusivity like that. You want to get Shaper Elder bases, you're not going to get those anywhere else. You won't get them from the temple, you won't get them from your memory map, you won't get them from Delve, you'll get those from mapping and high-level maps. And that allows high-level mapping to have more comparative value for, people who are looking for a high-level Shaper Elder base, because you can't get it from another system.
I mean,
whereas right now I get way more in the Nexus. Way more Shaper
still,
items.
I want to say that was still the case. Like, for example, Delve, the chests are limited to item level 83 for shaped and elder items compared to mapping where you get 84 plus 86s. But well, now we have this this Nexus, which, well, you can get 86 shaped bases, so it's
And
like
a lot of them.
yeah,
Isn't there
yeah,
like
and a lot
like-
more of them actually.
A lot of
I literally get twice as many from the Nexus than I get from mapping. But then again, that's something that they will change and nerf after the
sure.
league, like they did with absolutely everything else. It's always a lot more loot just to entice you and make you want to go there and do that.
It's really difficult from a designer's point of view to do that, though, because it requires a lot of discipline, because it's really easy to just go, all right, we've got this new mechanic and we want to make players play it. We want to make it feel rewarding. Let's take this thing that's really rewarding from another system and just put it in this one, and then they'll want to run it. You know, it's happened with
Yeah.
league-specific uniques over the past, like, many years of the game. If you go and look at the drop rate of Time Lost Relic in, like, Excavation map, that gives you a random league-specific unique. It's a set of 10. And I ran Elder Excavations to level 100 last league on my 100 push in hardcore. I got one set. I ran from level 93 to level 100 in Elder Excavations with full Sextant Chisel and Sackfrag investment. I got one set. And if you go and look at other sources of league-specific uniques in the game, you can get like a league-specific unique from your temple. Betrayal enemies can drop it. You can get it from a Shaper Stronghold. You can get it from Delft.
Yeah.
Like the philosophy on that has changed drastically over the last few years, because it's a quick and easy reward that you can go, well, I want to encourage people to play this system. Let's put league-specific uniques in. That's a bait for the player.
Yeah,
It's
they've
one of my
always
least
done
favorite.
that with a lot of things, but this specific mechanic, the Nexus, it feels like a jack of all trades. But right now it's obviously buffed to compensate for the disaster that the start was. Otherwise, I don't know why it would be this rewarding.
So it's the
But
same
it
as in
gives-
Bestiary.
Yeah, it gives prophecy, it gives lab stuff, like you get coins, you get twice enchanted, you get almost finished prophecy chains. And the people that run prophecy, for example, are actually upset about it. They were upset even when it was in Delft, because you get almost completed prophecy chains. Just, yeah, here you go, you click the chest and you got it.
Stuff they've spent 400 coins
Yeah,
completing.
they
and then just,
they
there it
spend the
is.
time to run it, and you just or you get the key directly. Like, here you go. Skip the prophecy. Here's the key directly. Same with like mortal fragments for Uber series. Like, yeah, you can get them from absolutely everywhere except normal series now. Because why bother?
I've put together 2 Uber Adziri sets without running more than a single regular Adziri this league.
I haven't run a single series. I have an Uber series. So I'm like, okay, thanks. It
Yeah.
feels weird that you get everything. And I do agree it would be nice if you could have different focuses, but what would synthesis be? Because right now it's just a bit of everything.
You buff the fractured items
Well, yeah.
massively so that they're much more likely to drop as good bases and much more likely to drop with good rolls. And then synthesis can feed into
Yeah,
its own
but-
crafting system.
But then we go into the whole debate, like at the start where you said crafting shouldn't have been the focus of the league.
It could be if they were to change the system. I think the crafting system in its current state is something that can stay in Path of Exile if the memory map stays as it is. But if you're talking about like completely revamping the system to, you know, get rid of the reward nodes entirely and make it much more about memory amplifiers and stuff, then you can also make it more focused on the crafting system. That would be an entire rehaul, essentially.
Yeah, something
Which
probably not gonna
probably
happen,
they will
but-
never do.
No,
but
no.
yeah.
This is a pipe dream I've thought of myself
Yeah.
that will never actually be implemented. But, you know, I don't actually have to work for a game designer, so I get to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to do any of the work leading up to it. You just say nice ideas that sound great,
Oh, yeah, it's easy.
and then that's it. It does. It sounds
Yeah,
great. I would love that.
And then we make a petition and we're just like, yeah, change it. We all want something different.
All right, before we completely dismantle why we're even on a podcast in the first place, was there anything else you wanted to talk about, Catmaster?
Yeah, well, we talked a lot about the bugs and the problems with the league. Do you think it actually hurt the player retention? Do you think a lot of people came back now that it's fixed? or do you think it's sort of like bestiary that the damage is not repairable at this point, and it will just be this year's Beast League, basically?
I think far fewer people came back than left.
Yeah. I feel
I-
like 50% of my people left, and 20% of the people who left came back with the new patch. So very, very few people came back. Now they're having a great time, as am I now, but a lot of the damage is done. Those people will come back next league. Now they're done.
I feel like most people just won't come back. Like, they had a chance, and then I've seen so many people, for example, they're still like, oh my god, you can't fossil craft? What is this? They're like, the patch is here. Oh, you can't fossil craft. I'm out. And I don't think, like, they already gave GGG so many chances, and this was just the nail in the coffin. So I feel
This
like they
whole-
waited way too long with
This
this
whole
one.
thing has sounded very, very negative about a game I really, really love. like I'm still here playing it all day, every day.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's just definitely important to point out the only reason we get this upset about it is because we're all so passionate about the game and love it so much.
if we didn't care about it, we'd literally just go and play something else and
Yeah,
not
like,
even
it's
talk
still-
about it or care. Like, talking is actually showing that you want something to be done and you care about it.
The
And-
thing that I like saying is GG dug their own hole with this, because I'm only comparing them to themselves when they've done a better job than this. Because no one else, there isn't another game company that does as good of a job as they do. There's no one releasing on a schedule like this. There's no one putting out this much new content consistently over the course of years. It doesn't happen. So I'm only holding them to themselves when they've done a better job in the past. So they've dug their own hole for that, because you've set a standard that's really high, and now when you fall down to what other games would consider good, but for you is a bit dodgy. So now, I'm
I mean-
expecting this.
I don't know. I'm between the goddamn cat ruining the moment. Between all the shady things that they've done, like editing development manifestos, not telling you about it,
That
not
shit
putting
me.
things in the patch. Like, sorry, I'm just like, I like GGG, but their standards are like, woo, everywhere. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't get hyped about things, and that way I don't get disappointed, which means I can just look at the game and play it and be like, well, they fucked up, they didn't fuck up, cool.
Well, I guess we can just say that GGG has been continuously expanding, and it's probably, while they get better at scheduling and making their own procedure work for their own schedule, there's probably a lot more unforeseen problems the bigger the company gets. And, that together with the fact that they don't want to deviate from their 3-month schedule, just at some point they'll have to take things out of the league before they release it, because they're not done with certain things, but they want to release the league. Or they committed to doing it.
The one thing I would say about that is, that's all well and good, and it's a good point, but two things that actually have legitimately upset me. Paul said one of them, Ninja changing the patch notes after we've all read them and not putting out a new announcement, just changing things in the already released patch notes without mentioning anything. I don't actually see that as an acceptable thing. That's not okay. I'm not happy with that. They need to not do that again. That's not a good thing. Like, just put out another little post that was like, hey, we've made these changes since then. Because they're like, I'm fine with them making any changes they want. Like, it's their game, do what you want, but don't like ninja change stuff without telling us. That's crap. And like what they did last league, where we had announcements of curse chests, totem shield, crafts, things that just weren't put in, and they didn't tell us. That part there, with that lack of communication, that's relatively new. That didn't used to happen, and I don't like it.
And on the flip side of that, like, things that are taken out without telling us, like
Mhm.
discharge.
Yeah.
Or actually more
Or
impactful
dead
than
boss.
discharge totems, because that was really a bug, is XP changes to flare farming in the darkness.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't think that was mentioned in any patch anywhere, and there were people in the Soul Itself and hardcore race who like had entire strategies planned around darkness farming, and it just got turned off essentially.
Which is perfectly fine for them to make the decision to turn it off. Like, that's fine. I'm cool with that. It was even probably the right choice.
I mean,
But tell us, like, say if this is happening, we're doing this. Oh, okay.
speaking of Delve and stuff, how did they manage to bug out that? Like, how did they bug it so? First of all,
They introduced a new bug?
doubled values.
Oh,
Like when
yeah.
you delve, you have like the doubled values, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't-
6 projectiles? What? You look at projectiles and you're like, how many projectiles am I gonna get shot with this time? Like the display bug. And then there's the fact that you had no XP in towns, like the cities in Delft, and
yeah.
the flare farming XP. And
Because to
how did
fix
they
flare
manage
farming,
to screw that up?
what they did was they made it so you could only gain XP when you were within light radius of the cart, which you're not when you went into the city.
Yeah.
And they just plain forgot that at the beginning and had to be like, oh, sorry, when you're in radius of the cart and when you're in a city. Right, okay, now it's fixed. So that was, I mean, that's fine though. That was an oversight. But the point was that they didn't really tell us beforehand. I really want, it's the only thing that I'm actually stuck on. Like everything else is just like criticism that comes from a place of love. And the only stuff that's really annoying me is that thing where they just change stuff beforehand without telling us, or tell us something's coming and then not put it in. Like that feels like bad faith communication. I don't like it. That's something that I expect from shittier companies that I won't mention. Not my favorite company that I love. Right? I'm not liking that.
I mean,
at all.
they've done it for quite a while now. They've always been kind of doing it, just not as much or as obvious or as brazen as they've been doing it.
Well, I
It
never
make-
noticed until the last few leagues. So if they could go back to being subtle about it, that will do for me.
it kind of makes you wish that, like, oh man, can you guys like go back to being subtle? I appreciate it more. But
Well,
it's also
I
us
never
gaining
noticed,
knowledge,
so-
you know. Like, did you know that Bisco's, when it was released, worked in the Hall of the Grandmasters? On the
Bisco's
Exiles.
Wait,
Bisco's
Uh,
collar, you mean?
Yeah.
But-
They were considered normal monsters?
Yep. The Exiles were considered
oh
normal.
shit.
That's a little busted.
Yep,
Just
that's a mistake.
saying. They had a
Oopsie-daisy.
lot of things going.
I mean, the most recent example is probably the changes in dead mods, because dead mods were a bugged thing that I assume were never really meant to work the way that they did for crafting, and they were completely patched out. But the only way we know that they were completely patched out is people had items with dead mods and tested afterwards to see what they synthesized into.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the patch
Like,
notes at all.
That's just as bad as Aceling from Betrayal, when you could craft over the 2 mods as a multi-mod effect.
Yeah.
When you had it. That one I think was announced, but it's still like they changed the way it worked compared to the way it was the first time. And it's always so bad feeling like you're missing out or you didn't get to
That's it,
finish what you're
when
doing.
they did that, people had made weapons for
Yeah.
3 to 4 exalts. There's a weapon that costs 3 to 4x, and that is now practically unmakeable and worth 25x.
Oh yeah,
So if you
they
were rich
also
enough to make
didn't
them at the time,
announce-
you made a few of them, you were done, and no one else could do it, even though it was just basic crafting. Like, you just no one
Yeah,
else
they
could do it the
didn't
rest.
announce the part where you could have the extra flat fizz added, like crafted twice, I think. That was the part they didn't announce. They only announced the ace-link change. But God, speaking of betrayal, all the changes that they've done to it. Did you encounter Katarina, any of you in the map?
No, I'm really
No,
sad. I
it was a
wanted
fun
to.
bug to watch, though.
Yeah, I
It
wanted
was a
to.
fun bug to see at others.
And I wanted them to leave that in. I didn't think that needed to be a bug. Come on, it was
Wow.
very rare. Just let her pop out and fuck with me.
Can you imagine how terrifying that is? Like, you don't even know what that is, and you get smacked around by Kata.
Well, Kata
That
could
sounds like
spawn in an
fun.
intervention or what?
Yeah?
Yeah, she
Wow.
could
Really,
randomly
really
spawn
rarely.
as part of an event.
And then she
Very
would be as
rarely.
strong as a boss
She
encounter
would be
thing.
unkillable.
Stronger, really, because she'd have the map mods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you couldn't kill her at all.
It's amazing how many little things there are always. It feels bad that we're always circling back to bad communication and to fails in the league, but it's just so interesting how huge this game is and how many things there happen, how many things can happen that I have no idea of. Something that I noticed is that they patched in the option to leave after you've done a betrayal encounter, right? So when you don't want to execute or interrogate, you can then press a leave button on the bottom, and that ends the encounter,
Yeah.
so you can do the remaining encounters in the map. However,
They had to do that.
yeah, but it's only on the first two, not on the last one. So when the last one is a research and you don't do one of the two options, there's no portal spawning. So you actually have to end up walking out of the research encounter back to the entrance. And I'm like,
Yep.
dude, and people still, like, they, to the very day, they don't understand how people could assume that they don't play their own game.
I mean, maybe they want you to think about your decision as you're walking about the long route out.
Yeah. You sure you don't want to interrogate?
Maybe you change your mind, you know? They want you
and
to
then
make
turn around and walk
absolutely
back
sure.
through it a third time. No,
You
I'll
have to
actually,
be
I will.
absolutely sure before you leave, you know, because you can't click back. They don't allow you to go back into
That
the
reminds me of
research,
another
so-
little funny thing that's been in the game for ages. If you fight the Act 9 boss, before the Act 9 boss, you have to do the 3 little zones, right? Malagaro, Chevron, and Doedri.
Mm-hmm.
After you kill the mini boss and you go back, if you accidentally go into the same zone again, you spawn in the beginning of the zone, but the portal is not there anymore. So you have to walk all the way to the mini boss again in order to get out, because you can't use portals in there.
I've never done that.
It happened to me so many
I
times. While
haven't done
talking to
that.
chat, just clicking on the wrong one, like, yeah, maybe I'm just exceptionally stupid. So that I'm
That's
an
good.
outlier in the PoE community, but yeah.
That's hilarious. It's such a long path with no mobs to refill flash charges because you've already been through it all.
Yeah, it feels bad, man. It's like I said, it's basically been in there since 3.0.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's hilarious. That's brilliant. I can see doing that.
There's so many bugs in this game that just make you laugh. It's kind of sad that we're just like amused, like, oh, Katarina, hi, you're not supposed to be here, but you're funny.
I just wanted it to happen once to me before they fixed it. I
Yeah,
just
you
wanted
know-
because I'm in softcore this league, so I could take that.
You know, the way I know we have betrayal in a map is like
Is it the
Rez
load time?
is spamming. No, Rez is just spamming lag as soon as the map starts.
Yep.
It's like we have a detector. In case there's betrayal, we know it is. They still haven't fixed the lag for everyone. It's crazy.
I haven't noticed anything since the most recent patches, but in the beginning I was also able to tell when there would be betrayal.
No, for me, performance was like the best I've ever had since.
On the
I don't
whole,
know,
yes, but in
Ascendancy.
particular in betrayal maps, I would get a very distinct hiccup in the beginning. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is weird. What is happening? And then the intervention portal would come up, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that, but I saw a lot of it, and it looked unplayable. Like my friend that I play with a lot, Ildris, he came to softcore because we all went to softcore this league, so he's in softcore this league as well. But he had a full like 8 to 10 seconds worth of nothing showing, no whenever an intervention spawned. He never saw the portal. The game would just lock up, and then 10 seconds later he'd be dead on the floor. And he might get to see the intervention disappear off to the side. And he's like, if I didn't, he was like, pretty much like if we didn't happen to go to softcore this league when we're normally in hardcore, he would have played for a few days and then either quit the league or had to go change to softcore on his own because it was just unplayable. He would not know. He wouldn't know that the syndicate was there. And then the game would freeze, syndicate members would pop out, kill him while he couldn't see anything, and then would unfreeze while they were leaving through a portal.
And you can't. What? Like, the worst part is that brings us back to GGG's refusal to let us tweak how long we want to be in the game. You can't even log out because the game will keep you in the game and you'll still die from that.
6-second timer. That's toucan.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to change that. There is. There's a slider. They can just change it. They've said so. But their reasoning is right. Their reasoning is right. Like, I understand why they don't want to do it. But at the same time, too bad. Let me, please.
I don't know. They should just add it. You know how you get the Scion when before Dominus? Just add it once you have a level 100 in the goddamn game. I don't know. Gated behind that, or I would say kill Uber Elder, but you can get an Uber Elder kill so easily.
Nah, it'd have to be something like, I would like it to be something along the lines of, it's a setting that you can do on the website only that affects your account rather than your client. And I would like it to have its own little like test period. Where you can be like, if you want to test what it would be like on a 3-second DC timer, you can press the test button for like 12 hours of gameplay or something. And then have a look and it'll be like, you would have been disconnected from the game 72 times. Okay, my internet's not quite good enough for that. Let's try a 4-second one. And like,
yeah, but that's a lot
have some
of
sort of system.
That's a lot of resource investment that they have to do that wouldn't get them anything. Money-wise,
get them my appreciation.
You know. Yes, they would get
you
my appreciation.
Let me pay for it. Problem solved. You want access to a thing? Just let me pay for it.
That's a slippery slope. But let me pay for better
$50
performance
right now.
I mean, I would pay for a private server. Like, can I have my own server like right next to me so I don't have 90 MS?
It doesn't matter. You still got to load every zone from bloody America. Anyway, that's a different. That's a different topic.
It's been a lot of harsh criticism, but we're all pretty much still playing the league full time, and we've been having a lot of fun. We dipped a little bit into.
It's fantastic. I'm still loving it.
Well, it took me a month to craft my wand to know that it doesn't work, and now I need to wait for the bug fix. Okay.
Just respec. Just be regular self attack KB instead of minor. Easy solution.
The base is a prophecy base. The attack speed is so bad, but the crit is so good.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying, Cat Master? Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask whether you guys want to talk a little bit about the changes, the entire spell overhaul, like what you guys think are winners, what are losers of the entire patch. And yeah, in particular, we wrote down notes for the leech, because Life Leech was heavily gutted. I think the mechanics for Slayer and Ascendant Slayer, where the leech doesn't stop. What was the exact change? Each leech instance can now only recover up to a certain amount of your life. I think it was 2.
It's capped in how long it can last as well.
Yeah, in a confusing way, a lot of it didn't change functionally if you were constantly attacking, but what's basically ended up happening to really like just dumb it down because it's too confusing otherwise, is if you're an actual Slayer, you now only get 5 seconds worth of leech after you stop leeching, assuming that you were leeching at max at your max, which was very high. And if you're a Ascendant Slayer, you now only have 2.5 seconds. It used to be that if you were something that hit hard enough, like Elemental Hit or Scourge Arrow or whatever, that it would be up to like, you could get up to like 40 seconds worth of overleech.
I mean, longer than that if you
Even
really wanted
longer.
to max it. You could do, like, with Slayer Overkill Leech with meme builds that were designed to hit as hard as possible with an individual hit. You could actually get out of Leech. Like, theoretically, if you have the perfect setup, you can smack a mob, get the Overkill Leech off of, like, another mob or something, and get, like, actual hours.
Well, I think practically in actual useful builds, it was around 40 odd seconds worth of leech that people were getting.
Which is still more than enough to get through an entire area.
Yeah, it
was like a few
just
minutes.
meant if you had to run around for 20 seconds in a boss fight trying to dodge stuff, and you were a leech build instead of a regen build, you were fine. And now you are not. Now it's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, now basically people are forced to attack every X seconds, as Balor said, 2.5 to 5 seconds if they really want to. And make sure they deal enough damage, of course.
Or you could just play an ES build, and then the moment your leech ends, you're probably your ES recharge is kicking in anyway. And because you're a cultist, it doesn't stop.
Right. Now that you've mentioned ES leech.
I mean, this is one thing that GGG have been doing for a long time. They rotate metas and they rotate defenses. Like, I don't know how many people were playing when EB was a thing, the old one with Arctic armor and all those shenanigans. And they're like, we want ES to be a thing and then nerf it so that life is a thing, and now we want hybrid to be a thing. And next up, I don't know what they want to really do. But they rotate defenses and they have to make it so people want to do it. I don't feel like it's fair to compare ES Leech to Life Leech, especially the gems. Like, one's completely outdated and one's new to make you want to play shiny hybrid builds.
See, now you say that, but the Life Leech gem was reworked this league. It was in the patch notes and released in the list of all of the other gems.
Well,
and it looks garbage.
It was, well, let's just put it on, like, I don't know. It's a gem that they wanted people to see again, to, like, hello, I exist. I'm a life leech gem, just like the mana leech gem.
Well, the big problem is that the life leech gem is something that you use when you're desperate for leech and you want to sacrifice damage in order to get the leech that you desire so much. And the ES leech gem is just a generically really good more damage.
Yeah.
It's a generically decent option that most people will still not use unless they're like going for something hybrid generally. Like, the chances of using it versus something else, you're still not going to use it. But I don't know, that's just my builds. At least I haven't felt the need to use that gem unless I was planning something hybrid.
I think outside of the ES Leech and Life Leech support gem dichotomy, they've done a pretty good job of buffs across the board for all the spells, though. I mean, I personally have wanted to play more different builds this league than any in a while, and I've seen more build diversity this league than any in a while. There's obviously a meta. There are skills at the top, like something like Winter Orb, I've seen a lot of representation of, but I think it's a lot healthier than it's been in the past.
Oh yeah, no. Most of the spells, I still think traps and mines are overall better than hand casting is, but they certainly closed the gap a lot.
Yeah.
Hand and self cast feels okay now, and there's quite a lot of different spells that look usable. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm pretty much the same as Oct. I've got like 8 million fucking builds I want to play right now. Like, I just
as far as how many, go ahead, pause.
I feel like their main issue with self-cast is rather they missed the part where it's not just the damage, it's the AoE or the range, and that's why traps/mines are still better.
Because Saboteur is so good.
Like Sabo provides the AoE you need or the range in some cases.
80% area. Let's go. Yeah, it definitely closed the gap a lot, and now they all feel usable, whereas to me they did not feel usable before.
Yeah, there's way more like second and third string builds.
Yeah.
There's still only a handful of meta T1 skills and builds, but that's kind of always going to be the case.
Yeah.
It's just what a meta is.
And before,
even
it
if
was
the
like,
differences between
here's
like
the 4 or 5 meta tier 1 builds,
Yeah.
and then there's 3 or 4 tier 2s and 3 or 4 tier 3s, and then everything else down in the shit tier.
Mhm.
And now they've moved a lot up to the tier 2 and 3 area where they're still not the absolute best, but you could definitely push and do
yeah.
all of the content with a lot of different things now that you couldn't before. So
I think pretty much every skill that got buffed on the list as far as the patch notes go could probably kill Uber Elder.
Yep.
At this point.
I would say so. I'd say pretty much any spell in the game could now. Trying to think if there's a spell that couldn't.
I mean, people have been doing Orb of Storms. Uber
Or-
Elder Kill.
Orb of Storm's
really
got
good now.
so
With-
much damage now.
With
It's
Tempest
really
Shield.
good now. Yeah.
It's like it sounds like a meme, and it kind of looks like one. It again, not T1 skill, but Orb of Storms is legit.
Honestly, it's kind of tier 1 boss if you're in an arena. It's fucking massive damage. It map clears a little awkward. Plant Orb of Storms somewhere. Tempest Shield away. Go plant it over there. Tempest Shield. Map clears a little air. But
Probably
its boss is really good.
probably clear maps with some other more
Yeah.
map clearing oriented skill. I don't know. Something like Arc maybe has a lot of synergies. Though Arc's map clear is a little sad now.
I don't know. Like people are saying that Arc's bad, but I played it as a minor again, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel much difference. Maybe it's just mines and traps that still enable the range for you.
I don't
It
know.
still
I
felt
leveled
okay.
Arc Mines with my miner as well. I leveled Arc Mines and did early mapping Arc Mines, and honestly, 99% of the time it felt exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like
In terms of the
nothing had
mapping distance
changed.
and everything?
Yeah. Nothing
okay.
had changed.
Like
Very occasionally, I'd be like, oh, I kind of expected that pack all the way on the other side of the screen to also get hit. And it just quite didn't. Just
Yeah.
occasionally. But for the most part, it was unnoticeable.
Yeah, people have said that self-cast was the one that was hit the hardest, but mine's I'm like still feels the same.
Yep.
Nice.
It's weird. Because the jump distance nerf I would have expected to hit like any variation of it, because
Yeah, but
it shouldn't really be
but,
something that changes too much with
like,
that.
Yeah, but you have
in reality,
the
it used to do the entire
detonation.
screen.
Like you have the mine, you put it down, and then you have like the detonation range for the mine, and then from there it starts to chain into packs. And
Okay.
yeah.
And it used to be that it would jump to one corner of the screen and then chain back all the way through you to the other corner of the screen. And now instead of being able to go corner to corner, it can only go like side to side. And it's
Yeah,
just not quite as far, but in most cases, just unnoticeable. It's exactly like it was. At least from the mines. I haven't
as a
self-casted
mine
at all, but from a mine,
as a
it was
mine
nothing.
point of view.
And its damage is still stupid high, and it still goes around corners, and it still clears the entire pack, and then the next entire pack that's around the corner, just exactly the same.
It's good to hear. I don't want to see skills get gutted
Yeah,
necessarily.
I feel like they actually managed to balance a lot of things except Armageddon Brand. Like Stormbrand, it's still good. Windorb, still good. Arc is a minor, still good. Like a lot of the nerfs that they did, they're still okay. Except Play Vortex. Play Vortex is also bad.
Blade
Or it
Vortex
feels-
hurt a lot, yeah. Blade Vortex is really only good as a Val skill on top of other things. Yeah.
I'd forgotten Armageddon Brand was a thing, because it was already shit, and then they nerfed it, and I was like,
They also hit it harder than Stormbrand, right?
yeah, and they hit it harder
Yeah.
than Stormbrand, despite
Yeah.
it being garbage to begin with. I was very confused by that one. But pretty much everything else in the list has been nailed, so that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't miss Armageddon Brand. It's fine.
That's why I kind of feel like they don't get what parts we don't like about certain skills. It's not even the damage; it's how they play out,
Yeah, Armageddon
or
Brand.
like the range.
Armageddon Brand's biggest problem was it would trigger up in the air as enemies were moving. And so what would happen is it would stop when it triggered. So as you're running along, it would trigger, the mob would keep running, it would drop on the ground behind them just continuously and never hit them. And it'd just be chasing them looking like Pac-Man, never doing any damage unless I stood still and let the mob hit me so that it would stop and get hit by the Armageddon Round. Nah. It did okay damage, but it was mechanically and then they just ruined its damage as well. So
For me, I couldn't
That's
play
fine.
it because it was too flashy.
See, I've only played from the rebalance stuff, I think. What did I play? I played Spark, which felt good. I only played it through the story because of an untimely rip, but I feel that it's a lot better on single target now. I actually didn't use a single target support like Lightning Spire, which probably I should have. But I felt Spark was really good. They lowered the time. What?
Sadly, it's still bad, at least in high tier maps. Like,
Probably,
the single
probably.
target for it.
The thing is, while leveling, you can easily just get 1 or 2 levels when you feel it's not strong enough, or get a gear improvement, and then be like, oh yeah, it feels okay. I felt that the gap between pack clear and the little bit tankier rares or the bosses was closed a little bit by reducing the cooldown time for single projectiles to hit a single target. But you know, like I said, maybe just a misconception. And yeah, I also played Ethereal Knives with the new Unleash support. I really like the Unleash. I noticed that Unleash doesn't share a cooldown, so if you can do several EK setups with Unleash, then they don't have the same Unleash cooldown, unlike, having several fire traps. So you can just rotate through your Unleash setups and let them gain stacks again.
A 6-link chest and a 6-link staff. And like a pseudo 6-link pair of gloves or helmet or something. You could
like
be
that.
like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they would all get the Unleash every time.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I really
interesting. I'm not sure if it's useful or not. That's a lot of sockets to take up, but it's interesting.
You could theoretically do that with like a clear skill and a single target skill in some builds.
Do single target skills work well with Unleash though? I had big problems with single target in my EK build. I had to use Val BV and Val RF and it was still bad.
Unleash is the one where you charge up multiple stacks and release all at once, right?
Exactly.
Yep. That would be upfront burst single target for, say you use that with Detonate Dead. You drop a bunch of corpses under an enemy and Unleash Detonate. And you can get a ton of explosions all at once. You could burst down an enemy like a Syndicate or something.
DD does do a lot of damage too.
Valor's already thinking.
Vol Detonate Dead is an amazing single target assistant for any like fire area skill. If you're playing like Fireball or something.
Oh wait, Unleash Desecrate.
Prep some corpses.
Oh no, that doesn't work. Unleash doesn't work with cooldown skills.
Yep.
But Vol Detonate Dead has like some of the highest base damage in the game. It's crazy.
Desecrate is not the only corpse creating skill, and the other one does not have a cooldown.
Yeah,
Unleash
Unearth. Yep. Unleash, Unearth, GMP, LMP. Just there's 60 corpses.
Yeah, I think in general they did a really good job. That's something they've been criticized for a very long time, is that support gems were only more multipliers and they didn't really change how skills function. And now with this patch, I feel we got so many new support gems that change how the skill works in an interesting way.
Yeah. Infused Channeling and Arcane Surge as main supports now, functioning differently than everything else. That Unleash. There's
Intensify.
a lot of options now. Intensify, yep, that's a good one.
Intensify is amazing with Essence Drain and Contagion because
now you get 2 AoE gems on the Contagion.
Yeah. You can sync AoE Intensify and the Contagion and it keeps that AoE as it cascades through. It's massive. I want to do that with an Essence Drain Trickster and use Zeal's Amplifier for even more AoE. Just run Toxic
God.
Sewer and cast like twice.
Make it a life
Run-
one, wear a Carcass Jack.
Oh yeah. No, I don't play dirty blue life builds. I only play red life builds.
What's red life? I only know blue life.
Red life. I think that's the stuff that you have while you're leveling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just I keep it all the way to level 100.
You're
Which is
constantly
arguably still
I
leveling.
say.
Mhm.
And then there's also a new mechanic that's kind of an old mechanic. They introduced exposure, where now when Scorching Ray applies stacks to the enemy, you don't get a resist reduction anymore per stack, but as soon as you reach max stacks, you will then apply fire exposure. And that fire exposure doesn't stack with any other fire exposures or exposures for that matter. So Wave of Conviction, for example, also applies exposure of the element that it dealt the highest damage of. I thought that was really interesting. I think Balor brought that up when we were scheduling the episode or in a discussion before, that it's probably a sign that they're looking to add more ways to reduce resistances without having the abuse case where you can stack all of them.
Didn't you also have... Is Scorched also exposure? Or different type of exposure?
Yeah, but
I think
Scorched
there's a
isn't.
unique that says Scorched.
Yeah, but Scorched is not applied by Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray does not scorch.
No, not by
No,
Scorching Ray.
Scorch
Just
is the
Scorch.
swapping Ignite for Scorch with that garbage helmet no one
Yeah,
uses.
there's a harm
I
that
honestly
has...
forget that even exists. Yeah.
It also causes... I don't think it's exposure. I think it's just called a different way to reduce resists.
Yeah.
Scorch
Has
is an
anyone-
element that causes the effective target to have 20% reduced elemental resistances based on the fire damage of the hit for 2 seconds. So it's sort of like a shock-like effect in that it scales based on the damage that you dealt, but instead of scaling increased damage taken, it scales resistant shred.
Yeah, it reduces
interesting.
elemental resists by 20%. So they do have already one different way of reducing resists
But I think
on the crappy helm, but
what I was saying about the exposure thing is it doesn't really seem any functionally different right now. Like right now, if you didn't know that things had changed, some things had changed to exposure instead of minus res, it would have zero effect on you. So I think it's just future proofing. I think it's just there's some stuff coming
introducing the
later.
term.
Yeah. And then they'll be able to add things in later that do exposure. And then without us having abuse cases of being able to be like, well, I'll take this one and this one and this one and this one. And then now this mob has minus 170 res. Easy.
Or change current systems over to be exposure rather than resistance reduction.
Yeah.
Since they've introduced the mechanic. Which actually I think is something that maybe they should do, because in my opinion, resistance shred has become a little bit too easily available in the game to builds where it's applicable. My Stormburst Inquisitor I've been playing, I actually, like a few levels ago in the process of building it, swapped out of the ignore enemy resistance nodes in Inquisitor and picked up the Consecrated Ground and the other 4 nodes as well, because you get enough value out of those, and it's so easy to shred resistances and push their resistance into negative and start using that as a scaler, that it's just not worth ignoring enemy resistances.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like the Inquisitor path of just ignoring resists is a bit outdated. Even with the nerf to Wise Oak that they did ages ago, they kind of started and then they forgot again, and then they add more ways to reduce resists.
Especially with the changes to offensive curses versus
Yeah,
bosses.
exactly.
Kelly weakness is legit strong against bosses now.
Like now they buffed curses and made it even easier to reduce them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like they want to add a couple of mechanics, but it would be nice if they could, if it would indeed be just changing wards, like the warding, so it's the same everywhere. That would be lovely. I hope that they do that, but I'm afraid because we have Scorched and Exposure and they're different things, but
Have you actually seen one of those helmets this league? Maybe it's changed to
Yeah.
exposure and nobody knows.
no,
It hasn't?
I've
Okay.
seen it.
Okay.
It's still scorched.
I haven't seen one of those helmets at all for any of the three things. Sap and brittle, I think, were the other two. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're only
Just
available from that unique helmet, right?
Yeah, it's brittle and sap.
Yep.
I think one of them was really interesting. I think it was Sap, but I don't remember them either. I've never encountered them in the actual game.
Now let's see if I can remember this because I have never seen them in game. The shock one turns into sap, and you give up shock for a reduced damage dealt debuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
20%
then-
less damage based on lightning damage.
Yeah. And then brittle, I don't think I remember.
Brittle is a crit scaler. So instead of
Oh.
freeze, you get additional crit chance versus the enemy. Sap is
Yeah.
actually probably, I would say, the strongest of the three because it's 20% less damage. Like, that's a pretty massive multiplier.
You know what
But-
else does 20% less damage or more? Dead things. They die much quicker if I can shock them. They took the only one that's like the most important for damage and put the useful one on that. Like, I'm never
Hey,
giving
the
up
best
shock for that.
defense. The best defense is offense. Who would have
That's-
figured?
Like, I'm not giving it up for that. That's just not happening.
Or 40k, yes. Pick one.
The only thing I would give up on any build is Ignite. And the one for
Yeah.
Ignite is
I mean, I would give up freeze, or yeah, I would give it up the shatters if I
I
could
guess.
have my explodies that work. I mean, if you explode
an
enemies, the
explodey
fact-
stick would make up for the. I could give
It's
it up.
kind of crazy because you can get the implicit relatively easy on any base, and then with essences or fossils, you can make, like, take Dan for example. He has a caster siege axe. He literally has cast speed and multi-modded his weapon, and it's a siege axe. And I've seen a lot of people with like weird melee weapons, just like, hi, this just has the explode implicit on it, and we're casters and we're using it. I mean,
To
it
be
makes it
fair-
nice for Vigilant Strike.
To be fair, if it wasn't for that, no one would be using melee weapons. So.
Now that's just mean.
Come on, there are a couple of lab farmers.
Melee
and,
is
like,
not trash, mate.
It is. It will be fixed though. It's the next league. I can't wait for melee to be good.
And if they do an amazing job, like with the spell we work, and if they keep working on it, if they don't rest on it, right? If they're looking to listen to player feedback and see, well, these skills we kind of try to buff, but they're still not used enough or still not good enough at the high tier of content. That I hope that they're not going to neglect them, but they did certainly say that melee probably needs a lot more love than spells, possibly, and that they're going to address that in 3.7. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also because I know from the previous cycles, when we have a league where we're a little bit not so happy with it, that the following league is usually kick-ass.
Yeah, they usually do a good job of not pissing people off twice in a row. Also, the last thing I'll point out is I keep forgetting myself, so I feel like people keep forgetting because I keep forgetting. This whole league, most of it was developed over the Christmas break with skeleton crew for half of the time and all sorts of stuff. And that, like, it shows, but it's not necessarily an excuse, right? Like, as an end user, you don't care that why, you just care that there are too many bugs, not why. But it is good to remember that that's probably why, right? There probably just wasn't as much time and as many people looking at it as there normally is.
What, you mean the league where they let an exploit be in the game for a very long time?
I mean, that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a lot. But yeah, I don't know. This one has felt the worst in a long time, and I think it's mostly because it was over the
I mean,
Christmas break.
that
Not that that's
break
an
and
excuse. It's just
And having limited
know.
support and whatnot wasn't helpful, but
yeah.
I just think that they're just being overly ambitious.
Well, I hope that it's like Incursion, a very simple system that they can optimize, something with high replayability, hopefully without quarry farming or anything comparable, and just something that makes us appreciate the game for, what it is, giving us a bunch of simple rules and simple items that we can combine into very complex things. That's what we all like, I guess. Now, is there anything that you guys feel you want to address still? I see you're nervously looking at your chats.
Right, people were bringing it up in chat. Who's actually going to ExileCon? Other than
I'm gonna be able to make it, thankfully, to some rather generous assistance.
Nothing from the other two. Too far away.
It is.
I could
too
afford
far
the
away.
tickets, but the plane tickets are like a different sort of thing. And then, like Chris Wilson pointed out on the Bake last episode, where he was featured as a guest, there's really so much more to do in New Zealand than just going to ExileCon. And if you were going to go, then you also have to spend like a week seeing other things. You have to stay somewhere, and
we're staying there a week.
The entire thing around it. I think my big trip this year is going to be TwitchCon, which is in 2 weeks in Berlin. That's going to be fun.
Oh, so we're gonna meet then.
Oh, you're coming as well. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. I wish I could go to that, but that's the opposite problem for me. I'm like that's too far away. I'm not doing that.
Octavian doesn't have that excuse. Octavian, Berlin in 2 weeks.
Berlin's a little far away.
He has a different excuse. The tickets are sold out.
That too.
Really?
Yeah. Now, this is a TwitchCon US that's going to be happening relatively soon, but my convention budget is pretty much fully eaten up by plane rides to New Zealand. So I don't think I'll be doing anything else aside from ExileCon.
Have you worked out how long it's going to take you to get there yet?
20 hours.
Mine's like that. It's 2 hours. I'm just missing a 0.
Oh, yeah, very close. Very close. It's not going to be fun. I don't do planes well. I'm too big for seats.
Ouch.
I think everyone's too big for airplane seats.
I'm not.
At least for 20 hours in the...
I'm not.
How tall are you, boss?
162.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, you'll fit an airplane seat fine.
I don't know. I'm just like this tiny creature. I don't have any problems with airplanes unless they're babies, and then we have a problem. I've had the worst luck. Whenever I go back home, they're like little kids being super loud and obnoxious, and their parents letting them misbehave.
No, chat. Paws is not 162 feet tall.
A literal giant.
Wow.
That is a building, not a person.
Wouldn't that be something? Yeah, the X-Racer now fits buildings.
Yeah.
It's a novelty chair.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in feet.
I'm really excited about ExileCon though. All right, so the one other really good thing I'm really excited about ExileCon is they said they were going to stream the event to people who couldn't come.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies, even smaller ones that do stuff like that, they sell virtual tickets. And GGG's like, nah, we don't need to do that. We're just going to stream it for free. And then they gave permission for anyone to re-stream the event so that if you can't come, you could be watching it with your community and commentating on it. And you've got permission to do so.
Yeah,
which is not something you can do for other things. You want it. It's free advertising. It's great.
Yeah. That is like charging
not what everyone
money.
else does.
charging
Why
money
not?
to watch the con is like charging money to have someone watch an advertisement for your product.
Right?
Like, just you made the advertisement so you could get as many people as possible to look at it. Let people look at it.
Yeah, don't gate it behind a paywall.
Yeah, and so I'm really, really, really happy with that. Like that they've done that and been like, yeah, I don't see any reason why you can't just
Yeah, I mean, they also
restream
kind
it
of
and watch it. And
have to let other people see the content because they're announcing a lot of major things, so they want to
Yeah.
get the word to everyone. They can't exactly gate it.
well, that's
Which
the
is
thing is
silly.
though, they don't have to because other companies don't. Like you try and restream BlizzCon and see what happens. You're not allowed. You have to buy a virtual ticket. If you restream it, you'll get banned. Like you need permission from the company, so they don't have to. They should. It's the only thing that makes sense, but it's not what other companies do.
Well, as far as I know, but I'm no expert on that. You're allowed to restream BlizzCon, but the free stuff that everyone can watch, not the
Yeah.
behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff that are tickets exclusive. So, like an announcement from I don't know Chris Wilson regarding the league, you could restream, but I don't know the private race you wouldn't be able to if it was like that. Thankfully, it's not, and we get
Yeah.
to see
So you
people
just
do stuff.
everything. You'll just be able to do everything,
In answer
which
to
is something I'm really excited about. I'm going to be there, so it's not going to affect me. But
I
I just
wonder-
really like that mentality from the company of just why would we charge for? No, please watch it. Please, as many people watch it. You want to restream it and commentate on it? Go nuts. Do the things.
I wonder
Yeah.
how many people are going to cosplay things from the game
I hope there's
to
a
go
lot of
to
them.
ExileCon.
I briefly
That would be
considered.
cool.
I briefly considered working out how many days there were in ExileCon, and then cosplaying as other streamers for a different one of each day, and then I realized that was way too much work, and I didn't want to do it. But I thought it would be
Oh.
quite amusing.
I mean, Groost shouldn't be too hard. You just have to spit, right?
In answer to the burning question from chat, I just did the conversion on Google. I am 0.39 rods tall. So there you go. I'm glad I could help you.
What's a rod?
Chat. I don't know. Google knows. I asked Google.
How many rods tall am I? I see. I see.
162, you said?
Yes, 162 centimeters.
You are 0.322. There you go.
Oh my god, there's a rods. What the hell?
No, it's a legitimate measuring system, evidently.
It says
I-
I am
Who
0.34
uses
rods tall. What?
I think that we've just about exhausted all of the synthesis
Yeah,
content.
anyway,
at this point.
Well, at least the content that we prepared to talk about. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of content coming in our upcoming broadcasts. Pause. Do you quickly want to tell people how long they can expect you to still be playing the league and what they can expect to see you doing there?
Well, you can probably expect me to play the league for at least another month or until they fix my one and I get to play with it and probably hit 100 with that build. But content-wise, you can probably just expect a lot of this floof. Look at her, she's just like, hello.
Ah, okay. So if you're interested in mostly cat content, you can find Pause at the, what was it, twitch.tv/PressStartToPaws?
Twitch.tv/PressStartToPaws, where we do a lot of bosses and kind of everything in the game, plus cats. Mostly
My
cats.
favorite part is that sometimes the cats jump off the cupboards behind her without her noticing and scare the shit out of her. Because they land on the chair behind her head or on her. Just out of
sometimes
nowhere.
they just land on me. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna sit there.
Octavian, what's your next funky build that you got planned, and where can people find you if they, for some reason, don't know you yet?
It's not particularly funky. I wanted to try some Essence Strain. I did briefly dance with the possibility of going Deadeye for 50% AoE, which seems like fun, but
And
probably
an extra
Trickster.
proj for Essence Drain.
Yeah, Essence Drain as well. Extra proj. There's some synergy. You can do Deadeye anything. You can do Deadeye
Yeah.
basically anything.
Just do normal lab and you're good.
Yeah, it's just generically strong. But yeah, and you can find me at twitch.tv/Octavian0 or on Twitter by the name Octavian Zilch.
Balor, how about you? Are you still hyped to play some more?
Oh yeah, no, I'll be doing it continuously. I'm sticking with my Warp Trickster for now because mostly because I'm really enjoying it still, but I have no idea which build I'm going to try next. My opinion seems to change every hour. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited about this, and then I'm thinking about later. I'm like, oh, I'm really excited about that build over there. And then I'm like, oh, someone else did a thing, and it was a good idea, but I think I can do that better. I want to try that one. I have no idea what I'm going to be playing, but like I just don't. I will be playing. That's all I know. And basically, you can find me just at BalorMage everywhere. Just Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, everything is just BalorMage.
Sounds great.
Have I been saying it wrong this whole time? I thought it was Balor. No.
Yeah, I'm also.
You
I
can do
think it's a
whatever.
50-50. Some people say
Yeah.
Balor, some people say Balor.
I think I say it both ways.
Oh, okay, good.
I think we
Okay.
should just call him Mage. Fix.
Yeah, no one's
Be
mispronouncing
Mage.
that as Maj. BalorMage.
They will now, so thanks for that.
They will now.
You're welcome. Glad I could help.
BalorMage.
BalorMage.
Great.
Mage. Yeah.
Shay, oh
We're
my God.
sorry.
So yeah, if you guys don't know me yet, if you came from one of the plenty hosts, thank you guys all for the hosts and the support. I really love it. Thanks for all the new follows. My name is CatmasterOP. I play Path of Exile on this channel. Most of the time I'm dying a lot because I insist on playing hardcore, even though I value stream interaction and oftentimes forget to pay attention to the game and then die as a consequence. But it's a lot of fun. We recently died on a Stormburst Juggernaut, and the only thing that I really died to was my own stupidity, so I think I intend to make the exact same build again, just stronger. We're just going to make less compromises, we're going to go for the strongest options, for the biggest life pool, and I'm going to try and push something with it. I'm pretty sure I won't get to Uber Elder, but I was very close to doing Yellow Elder yesterday. I just decided to opt out because after I tanked 3 slams, I was like, okay, next time I tank the slam, maybe I don't have my 7 endurance charges up and then I die. I just felt that the damage wasn't there to take it down, but I think it's workable. I want to thank you for coming on. It was awesome. Paws, you've never been on here, but it was really natural and cool. Octavian, you haven't been here in a while, but, awesome.
Thanks for having us.
It was a good show.
And yeah, thanks to BalorMage for all the help with developing the episodes. Is any one of you going to stream and is interested in getting a host right now? Because I'm going to work on finishing the episode and probably going to finish my food that I didn't get to finish before the podcast because of my little kitchen accident.
Yeah, I gotta run and eat, so throw it to someone.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go sleep, but yeah, maybe
my-
back.
Mine's the same thing as always. Like I get this started at 5 a.m. for me, which means I'll need at least like 15-20 minutes before I start up to
Okay, I'll entertain the people in the meantime.
prepare for
And then we'll shoot you over to Balor.
Kitty,
Hello, cat.
Oh,
far
awesome.
away cat.
She's up there.
That's
Like, people
that's where
are.
she launches from to land
Yeah.
on you.
She just goes up there and then just jumps back.
Oh, I also noticed that we're dropping frames right now. Holy shit. This is the worst internet I've had in a while.
That only happened in the last minute or so. I've been noticing on a Discord as well. Your camera will freeze on Discord. It wasn't happening for most of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for
It
the
just
most part
started
it was
happening in the
stable.
last like minute or two.
It's the cat. She's preparing.
No, we're back. We're back in the greens. Yeah, okay. So I said thanks. Guys, it's awesome. We'll do more episodes of this. We're looking for actually we're looking to increase the frequency because there's so much to talk in PoE, and we don't want to have all those long episodes, but aim more towards a 2-hour show rather than a 3-hour show. So look forward to more Faded Connections coming. Thanks again, and I'm gonna leave the conversation.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.